sorry.
Okay, we have 3 public hearings. The first one scheduled is for 2018 countywide shared services, property tax savings plan. Anyone who would like to comment? Closed. Next is a public hearing on the 8-year review of agricultural district number 1 and consolidation of districts 2, 3, 4, and 8. Anyone wishing to comment on that? Hearing none, motion is closed. Second? All in favor?
Aye.
So, ordered. And the public hearing on the community development block grant. Anyone wishing to comment on the community development block grant? Motion is closed. Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Now we'll call to order the regular meeting of the Sioux County Board of Representatives for Wednesday, August 1st, 2018. Roll call members.
Frazier? Farwell? Aye. Clark? Aye. Stammel?
Here.
Kennedy?
Here.
O'Bracker?
Here.
Bliss?
Here.
Marietta?
Here.
McCarty?
Here.
Wilbur?
Here.
Kotnick?
Here.
Martini? Here. Lappin?
Here.
Shannon? Here.
If you're able, please rise for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, privilege of the floor. Anyone wishing to speak?
My name is Edward Doyette. I live in the hamlet of Welcome in the town of New Lisbon. Good morning, everybody. I have 3 little items I just wanted to bring up. I'd like to thank the county very much. They did an excellent job, whoever they hired to pave County Route 16 over by me, going from 14 to Garrettsville. The one thing I'd like to bring up, it's a bit of an issue. They used the arm mower there and cleared the sides before they, started work on the road. That left a lot of chips in the road and everything like that. I'm thinking, I know the one shot over by Welcome Cemetery. That's some of the little chips and all. They picked the big pieces out of there, but the little pieces, sticks and everything, they were in the road there for at least 3 or 4 days before they came through with a broom sweeper. I'm thinking anybody with a motorcycle coming by, Ms. Kokoma could probably reiterate on that. That would put the county in a major lawsuit. Somebody took a spill or, God forbid, died. Simple leaf blower, blower pack. Guy can walk along 1, 2, 3. The stuff is cleared out of the road. I know when I blow the leaves over by me and some of that goes out by the road, I just blow it 1, 2, 3 with the leaf blower, and it's done. It's clear. Everything's out of there. And you have a clear roadway. Just a little ounce of prevention. The other thing I'd like to bring up was when they were cutting, I don't know why, have a lilac bush there by the edge of the woods. It was there at least 75 years, probably more. But the trunk part and everything was at least like that on it, different parts of it. They had to go, they went in there with chainsaws and they cut it. I don't know what that had to be. I was trying to nurse it back to health. The vehicle ran off the road a number of years ago in the winter and damaged it quite extensively. It had a lot of growth around it, but I was trying to nurse it back, putting wood ashes around it. I didn't see the necessity of that. The next thing I'd like to bring up is a charge for, the recyclables. Any of the other refuge haulers. Now it's $115 per ton for recyclables for them. And usually I talk to my son. He worked for Waste Management, probably the largest or next to the largest waste hauler in the United States. He told me, he says, nowhere ever did he ever hear of recyclables being charged for. He says, you alternate and work your tipping fee up to include it. He says, recyclables is a break-even at best, a loser in some cases. So he says, when it's a loser, he says, they bring up the tipping fee slightly to offset it, and it puts stuff on a level playing field. He said the one thing he thought is probably, he says, who's running the show there? And I says, it's a private, Carter, from what I understand, it runs the transfer stations now. He said it sounded like, to him, like they were trying to muscle all of the other competitors out of business. He says, and they're going to gradually buy them up and take them over. He said, a question to do is check their books and see if, in fact, they raised the fee on all of their, the people that they haul for. He says, see if they raised it to offset their costs. He said, if they didn't do it, he says, they're trying to knock them out of business. The other thing I'd like to bring up is, the need for a county manager. What do we really need it for? We have a county board that does an admirable job. We have, as I proved, I think it was last year, the county treasurer, Dan Crowell, he basically reiterated that we have a shrinking population. Why do we need to add more burden to us taxpayers? There's no need for this. The department heads are there for a reason. They can handle it. When they need something passed, I'm sure they have, the county board members' numbers where they can reach you and, get an approval in one way or another. It shouldn't be a problem. You don't have to add this extra cost on to us taxpayers. And one last thing before I, finalize on it. I noticed, in the paper here for today, on the prices for the, for the fuel oil and everything like that. Something I know of is with a friend of mine works for Reese Marshall. Now, the same delivery trucks, it's in there. There's 8.5 cents a gallon difference with the ultra low sulfur diesel as opposed to number 2 heating oil. There is no such thing anymore. It's the same. It's the same ultra low sulfur content in it, whether it's the home heating oil or the on the road stuff. And plain and simple, why 8.5 cents difference for the for the on the road stuff? If the county ain't paying tax on the road, I don't believe. If it is being taxed, then that is a proper occurrence. But it should be the same price. All they're doing, they buy the same ultra low and they dump in a little vial of dye and it turns the whole truckload that that reddish color for indicating that it's off-road use only. Why should there be that much difference in price? With the amount of consumption that the county uses on the trucks for the course of the year and equipment, we could be saving ourselves a lot of money. Okay, thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Bliss. Good morning, everyone. Since your last meeting,
Thank you.
there has been another serious rollover. Yes? Oh, sorry. Nicole Dillingham. I live in Springfield Center, New York, and I'm board president of Otsego 2000. Since your last meeting, as I was about to say, there has been another serious accident involving an XNG truck. This time it was a rollover in the town of Exeter, very near Canandaigua Lake, in an area where the road shoulders are simply insufficient to allow a truck to right itself if it goes a little bit out of the main passageway. I am responsible for giving you a series of materials this morning. The first one shows that since these trucks went on our roads less than a year ago, there have been 4 fairly serious incidents, 2 rollovers and 2 slidebacks, where the truck rolls back down the road and in one case it rolled into a ditch. These are large trucks, large tractor trailer trucks carrying up to 12 tons of compressed natural gas. In most instances, not in all, because in some of them the trucks were coming back empty, but in the one most recently at Schuyler Lake in Exeter, the truck had to vent its entire load of methane or compressed natural gas. This is a very, very serious problem that is looming over our county. And one of the reasons I'm here today is to remind you that the highest duty you have is to work to protect the safety and health of our residents. These trucks should not be on our local rural roads. I think we all know that. These roads were not meant for trucks of this size, of this weight, carrying this explosive cargo, and in this number. X&G has admitted in public meetings that they have 40 trucks right now doing 2 round trips. That's 160 pass-throughs our county every single day, 24/7. Some of the residents who live on these routes will tell you what it means to their lives. But we've also seen marketing plans put out by X&G where the plans call for as many as 250 trucks per day. And I know there are plans underway now to even expand that. So if we do not move quickly, we are going to be more and more inundated by this matter. The other very interesting thing, which we ran off today, is at the very bottom of your packet. It shows the time difference if X&G were required to take an alternate route on the interstate highways. And would you believe it is 5 minutes? It's a 5-minute time difference if X&G were required to take an alternate route. Obviously, that can change depending on conditions, but it's clearly 5 minutes is not worth the risk to our residents, to our visitors, to our school buses. How will we feel if there is a major fatality, let alone a major explosion? Because if this gas is vented near an ignition source, that's what we will have. So I know, because I've been at meetings with you and with other government agencies, the tendency is to say, what can we do? It's not our responsibility. Well, I beg to differ with that mentality. When it comes to the health and safety of our very own residents, if we don't take a step, who will? So what can we do? First of all, they are on a county road for part of the time. You can tell them that they may no longer use that county road, 25A. Because a municipality that knows that there is a risky situation on its roads and fails to study it and fails to act is actually liable to the people who might be injured by that activity. In addition, we have prepared a draft resolution, which is also in your packet. It's just a draft. It's for you to think about how you might want to approach this problem. We plan to show it to the towns along the route and elsewhere in the county, to have you look at what kind of resolution you could pass. So if you pass this resolution and then send it to various state agencies, perhaps with a cover letter saying, we are concerned about this, we demand that you investigate it, that would get the ball rolling. We have Senator Seward and Assemblyman Bill McGee that could be contacted. We could call X&G in for a meeting. Although I know what their response is we have the right to use these roads. But these trucks are not your grandfather's propane truck. Okay? These trucks should not be on our rural roads. And you, as our county representatives, I believe have a duty to at least write a letter, adopt a resolution, do something to show that you care about the safety of our people. And let me just add that I would strongly suggest you write to the State Attorney General as well. This project was permitted in Manheim as a place. There's an outlet. Well, let me start again. The Iroquois gas pipeline runs through the town of Manheim in Herkimer County. In 2012, they began making plans to make a spot for trucks to come into Manheim and offload gas from that compressor station. They were in their secret materials. They said there could be as many as 40 trucks a day that come to take gas out and deliver it to various schools or hospitals or manufacturing plants who may need gas. That is not what they are doing now. They are now taking gas directly from Pennsylvania, the fracked gas coming in from Pennsylvania. They are driving it up 140 miles or so up to Mannheim and injecting that gas into a pipeline. They never disclosed to the town of Mannheim in the secret proceedings that this is what they were going to do. They waited until the time to appeal that proceeding had expired to start this. But I think this causes a serious concern about whether this was legitimately permitted in the first place. For example, as you all know, you've been involved with SECRA many times. You have to notify all affected communities along the route, or who might be affected. I know this county wasn't notified. I know the town of Hartwick and Exeter and Richfield weren't notified. They were never notified that there were going to be as many as 160 or 250 or 400 trucks per day coming through their small villages and hamlets. So the Attorney General is interested in hearing the population of this county express an opinion on this. All you need to do is ask Ms. Coma to write a letter. They will be very receptive. I have spoken to them about this issue many times, and they say we would like to hear more broadly from the community. Take them up on their request. Thank you very much.
Anyone else?
Thank you, everybody. Patricia Zarpa, Town of Otsego, and I'm here today. I'm the Executive Director of the Otsego Land Trust. And Nicole Dillingham, who went before me, speaking about the X and G trucks. I have some additional information I'd like to share. First of all, the Otsego Land Trust is here to protect our lands, our clean water, for future generations, for all of you here in this room, and your families and future families. So we take this very seriously. We take it to heart. We have over 11,000 acres of land permanently protected for the future, and that is primarily all in Otsego County. And partly we own some of this land as well. So we followed up on this recent rollover of the X and G truck in the town of Exeter. We have properties along Oaks Creek, a very fragile ecosystem, and we wanted to make sure, did this truck roll over on our property? We have properties in fee that we own for public access and for the protection of the public. We took a site visit out there. Our board member, Dan Sullivan, and Marcy Foster, our stewardship manager, went out to see the site, measure and actually make sure they did surveys just to kind of see, because we needed to know ourselves, was this going to be something that we needed to follow up on if it did indeed land on our lands. And it was about 100 feet to the south of our property line. So, in one case we went, okay, it did not land on our protected property, but that's too close for comfort. I mean, you've got lands that are protected for the future of this region, and it was only 100 feet away. It could have been not only compromising in a major spill, it would have compromised all of that land. But even more disturbing was after they looked at our property and did their measuring and surveying, they discovered that only 150 feet from the rollover was a television power box that could have actually been one of these explosion situations. I mean, it really could have become very combustible very quickly, because now you've got a combustible source that would have been right there. So wanted to just report that to you, that this indeed is true. This was all cited and documented by our organization yesterday. And we all know, as Nicole has pointed out, these roads are not meant for these trucks. These roads can barely sometimes carry the large minivans and things that we have here from our visitors and from our local community. The sides of the roads are bad. Not to say they're bad, but they're dangerous. You can simply fall right off. These trucks coming, trying to accomplish their goal of how many have to go through each day, obviously there may be some speed involved. And so we need to take this really seriously. So what we consider ourselves an interested party to the draft resolution that is in your folders today. And we ask your help and assistance in giving this some serious thought. Nicole lined up some very, very good points in how this could be done to move this forward and move this along. It is not because we want to stop a business. It's because we want to keep our citizens protected, our lands protected, and our clean waters protected for future generations. Thank you very much.
I think.
So my name is Marcia Hoyt, and I'm from the town of Pittsfield. I'd like to ask a question. I don't know what your protocol is about giving responses. You don't?
During public comment,
Yes,
you know, we just listen.
you don't, okay. I'm here on behalf of Brian Harrington, who has a piece of property in Pittsfield that is slated for auction in a couple of weeks. And we just had some concerns about the way that it was handled. I know you have this whole thing going on with Bob Force. I'm not getting into that. He can represent himself. But I wanted to refer back to a couple of resolutions that I didn't see that this county is following in Brian's particular situation. The resolution 26, which states that the owners are given every opportunity to make payment. Resolution 234 from 1985, which states that the resident has the opportunity to redeem the property following the 3-year redemption, the following December 31st, which would, Brian was back to 2015, which would bring us to December 31st of 2018 if we follow that, what it says in that resolution. Then we had resolution 317 20101103, which said you may pay taxes up until the day of the auction. We went into the treasurer's office a couple weeks ago to try to pay, and they would not allow Brian to pay. We spoke to Michelle Farwell, who is the rep for Pittsfield, and she said that she had made an attempt to come out to the property to speak to Brian a few months ago to try to help him make payment, and we don't know who the person was, but someone told her that the property is vacant or abandoned, and that's what apparently she reported back to the county. When we came in to speak to the treasurer, Alan Ruffles, I asked him if there was a new resolution in place that overrode these previous resolutions, and he said, oh yes, yeah, there is, but I don't know what the number is. So I foiled what that resolution was, and I received a letter back from the county stating there is no resolution. So, and another error that happened is Brian came up on April 7th and made payment here in the office downstairs for 2018. He then went into the Pittsfield office and made payment for what he thought was 2017, but the receipts show that actually he made payment twice for 2018. So I'm respectfully asking that you follow your own resolutions and allow Mr. Harrington to make full payment before the auction. Thank you.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
My name is Joanne Gardner. I live in Hardwick. And I'm right on 205 where the XNG trucks go by. The first rollover last September happened 1.5 miles from my house. 2 incidents of these trucks not being able to make a hill were right on my property line. And another truck that could not make it up the hill was right in front of a friend's house who lives further up 205. I think there's a lot more incidents than we are aware of. When the latest turnover happened and the XNG trucks started rolling as soon as the road was clear, I called XNG VP, Matt Smith, and asked him, why aren't you not taking the interstate? They obviously have trouble with curvy, hilly roads, and we have plenty of those in Otsego County. His reply that he was concerned for his driver and his driver's family, and that I should be too. Slightly flabbergasted, I told him I am concerned about the drivers. Their safety is inextricably linked to my family's safety, my neighbor's safety, all the people who drive on this route. Their safety is linked to the safety of these drivers. A coworker of mine and her daughter were in danger last year when they were driving behind a tractor on 205, a farm vehicle. Many of them ride the roads. And there were 3 other cars in line behind them. An XNG truck, who realized they would not be able to make the hill if they didn't pass, took it upon himself to pass 5 vehicles going up a blind curve. It also put my friend's son in danger when he went to get his mail and had to jump back as an XNG truck came past on the narrow shoulderless road. It puts my kids in danger when they ride their bikes the 100 yards along 205 to get to the side street. It certainly put the people of Schuyler Lake in danger as the CNG was vented from that truck. After the first rollover, back in September, my 10-year-old and I were reading in bed, and we could hear the trucks driving by, which they do all night long. He asked me what would happen if a truck turned over in our yard when we were sleeping. Could it explode, he asked. I told him that would not happen, but I lied. I don't know. None of us do. We keep having these incidents and these accidents and the what ifs. What if this happened? What if that happened? And luckily, that has not happened yet. Let's be proactive. Let's stop this now before someone dies, because it's going to happen. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Let me get up to the podium. Well, folks, good to see you here. I've been fighting this county for 4 years to pay my back taxes. I've been wanting to get an ethics board together to review the sale and transfer of my property in Richfield to another county employee. I went to the treasurer, and he told me in plain English, I'm going to be blunt, I was SOL. I can't pay them. I cannot pay the taxes. 40 days before the auction, 40. There is no resolution, is there? That overrides everything. I gave them all the resolutions you could possibly want, that we could pay fines and fees and late penalties, an extra $500. My property, like this poor soul's property, is his home. It's not some kind of stupid property you're going to flip for a profit. For a profit. We want to go back there and live there. It's our home. And I've been asking and begging and pleading and respectfully requesting to pay those back taxes. He refused. He refused outright. Mrs. Gacoma was unyielding when we sent an attorney. No one wanted to help us, including Mr. McCarty, our representative. We did have Betty Schwerdt. That little bird, oh, she's precious. May God rest her soul. She fought. But here's the thing. The less you have, the more the government takes. If you are nobody, you stay a nobody and get buried even deeper. Now, we want, all of us are requesting an ethical review of the process. There is no resolution. And my response to that was, it requires legal research or advice. I don't need legal research or advice. We just want to pay the back taxes and get on with our lives. That's what I'm here to say. We want our properties. We pay. We will pay all the penalties, all the fines, the extra $500. That's in the resolution as well. See, this woman did her research. We did our research, and where did it get us? Still here, 4 years later, trying to get our properties back. Now, that is the main gist of my thing. I'm gonna say 2 more things. The XNG problem, we've been here for years about that. We see them rolling, barreling down the roads. That is the virtual pipeline. In other words, because we don't want a pipeline, now we have to suffer these trucks coming up and down these roads that are not built for them. And Mr. Evans and I, we go all over the place. We see them coming straight at us, behind. You are the legislators. You, not me, not us. You. Fill your positions. You were elected to this because people placed their trust in you, that you could do what would be best for all of us. Fill your positions. Have the gravitas to go up against XNG or anybody that would make the community less safe. And one more thing, we don't need a county manager. You are here. We elected you. We don't need some other person to come on board to get blamed or get pushed stuff on. We don't need that. We need you to do your jobs. And Mr. Stammel, thank you for voting against selling those parking spaces. It is a little bit smarmy, I think. We don't need to do that. Are we that desperate for money? We gotta sell parking spaces? And where's the money gonna go? I'm very curious. You know, it said something about DSS. I'm very curious. Most of those positions at places and programs are subsidized by the state and federal government. Mr. Stammel, I honor you. Good day, everyone, and resolution to pay back the taxes, yes.
Hi, my name is Kathy Schimberg. I live in the hamlet of Mount Vision, in the town of Lawrence. I live en route 205. In addition to everything that Nicole and Joanne said, trucks do go past my house. I believe it's more than 40 a day. There are usually 2 in a row and sometimes 3 in a row. So they go up and then they come back. And it's my understanding from reading a couple of pieces of research that even when they're supposedly empty when they come back, they're not really empty. There's some residual gas in them. People have propane tanks for their house propane outside their houses. It's a 2-lane, I know it's a state highway. It's a 2-lane road, not very wide, 2 lanes. There are no shoulders in Mount Vision. It's just people's property, and I drive through Hartwick as I come up here. And those houses are even closer to 205 than mine. I didn't prepare my remarks, so I'm trying to remember everything I was trying to say. I am a night person, so I'm usually up late at night, and I hear the trucks going by, and they may go by the speed limit more or less during the day, but they speed through Mount Vision at night. The speed limit for 1 mile, Hamlet's only 1 mile long. They go faster than the 40-mile speed limit. Now, a lot of other people do that too, but you don't want a compressed natural gas truck going past your house very fast in all kinds of weather, winter, ice, all kinds of stuff. I understand that this is something that the towns are supposed to mobilize to protest to DOT, but if they're not doing it, I'm hoping maybe the county can do something. Apparently, DOT is permitting this, but this is what the interstates were built for, not local state roads. And it really is kind of scary and a danger. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Keith Shue. I'm a technical advisor for Otsego 2000, and I'm going to echo some of the things that President Nicole Dillingham of Otsego 2000 said. It's going to be hard for me to repeat how well she articulated the issues, but as a technical person, I can tell you she's absolutely right. This is not your grandfather's propane truck. These are vehicles that carry compressed natural gas at 3,000 to 3,600 psi. That's more than twice the pressure in the pipeline itself, the pipeline that is receiving the gas from these trucks at Manheim. What we're talking about, as somebody said, this is a virtual pipeline. This is equivalent of the pipeline on our roads. Moving pipelines are pretty scary. I had the opportunity just yesterday to visit with some folks up in Manheim, and they've told me about their experiences in living with this over the past several years. I actually remember when the project was put forward up there several years ago, and I actually attended a couple of the hearings, and I know what was said. They know what was said because they were there. They also know that what they're experiencing is something very different from that. The company that we're talking about, XNG, has trouble telling the truth. They put forward an application, as Nicole said, to build a facility that would be distributing gas from their site with a certain number of trucks that they predicted every day that might be coming from that site, delivering those trucks to end user customers. That's what they told the town board through the secret process. That's what they told the PSC, the Public Service Commission, at the state level. They basically told the state, this doesn't have your jurisdiction. This doesn't have state jurisdiction because it is not a quote-unquote gas plant. It's not a gas plant because we're distributing to local customers. It was absolutely incorrect. It was absolutely untrue. What they did shortly after they went into business there is they added other equipment in the form of a very large compressor, a gas-fired compressor, which they did not have any permits for, and they started operating it. They were fined, but ultimately they're still doing their thing. They basically circumvented the legal process. They circumvented the process of the Public Service Commission, and we think that's a big problem. The folks up there are seeing trucks that are often on the side of the road. They're not making it to their destination. They experience noise. They smell the mercaptan, which means that gas is leaking at the site. Canadarago Lake, I had the opportunity to follow one of these trucks back about a year ago from up there in Manheim down through Otsego County, and that area around Canadarago Lake is particularly hazardous when you're talking about a large truck. I was thinking, how is this truck going to make it in the wintertime? When roads are more hazardous and perhaps more slippery, it does not surprise me at all that the most recent accident was there. And so I do worry, especially as winter approaches, which is also the time when they use the trucks the most. What's going to happen? So I would agree with everything that Nicole said. You have an authority and an obligation to take a stand on this, I believe. One last thing I would add is that while I was there yesterday, I noticed that XNG had a sign saying drivers wanted. They're having trouble retaining drivers, and there's a reason for that. It's because of how they treat their drivers, the problems that they've experienced. And so I would caution, I would urge you to take a stand on this, engage the Attorney General's office, and I'm hoping that other towns will, in addition to the county, will take a stand as well. We can do something about this. Moving these trucks to the interstate would be far better than the local roads that we're using right now. Thank you.
Good day. Russell Aarons, County Highway 26, number 180 is my residence. And I thank the people for coming today to talk about XNG. Maria and I have been very concerned. Just yesterday, we saw XNG trucks on the road down in Pennsylvania, heading up this way. I give them credit. They had at least maybe half a mile between them. But definitely a hazard. In fact, I noted they really weren't going over the speed limit on the interstate. They burn, as I understand, natural gas themselves, so they lose a little power there. And maybe that doesn't help them on the hills. But Been a concern. It's totally foolish because, as you may know, this gas is being shipped over to the East Coast and then it's being shipped overseas to be sold. That's what's really going on. It's a huge port that down in Delaware Bay that they're doing that to. And people down there, they're getting 6 gas lines stuck through their backyard, whether they want it or not. Thank you for anybody that is against fracking in New York State. Our resources are going to be here for generations to come. And our science of getting it back out of the ground is going to be far better than what it is now. And yes, we're getting it crammed down our throat because we didn't say yes to a gas line. But this is the way it goes. But our bigger concern, and of course I have watched this process with this county manager deal. Something I wanted to read to you here from the newspaper. It says, on the potential change in leadership roles in Otsego. This is long overdue. Stop talking and do something. And then they went on to add, we have a county manager in Schoharie at a cost of well over $150,000, benefits included. And it's done nothing, saved nothing, improved nothing, changed nothing. In fact, some things he's really screwed up on. Save yourselves the money, get your acts together, and do your jobs. Now today, I'm here about elder abuse again, yet. I have these little hand grippers. If I had a choice to hand them out to you, I would hand one to Kathy, to our county attorney, to Ed Frazier, and to our county rep at the time who chose to ignore a letter from Jim Seward saying, please resolve this issue. He didn't want you to go and take a widow's home away. How's that going to look for him? How's it look for you? There's one thing I want you to remember, you Otsego County 2,000 people. When it comes time for re-election, I'm talking Representative McCarty. Get rid of him. That's the only thing we can do, and he thinks it's funny because he's got his pension locked up. So in the meantime, we've had embezzlement in this county. We're talking about land being taken. We had somebody in the treasurer's office, stole $25,000, admitted, at the same time when her home was being taken. And yes, saved the Force Farm. Bob Force, he's still fighting for his land 4 years later. 111 acres. He owned it for 30 years. Always paid his taxes. And then you, this county, or our judges here, went and took properties. They said people were served notices. Not so. I'd like to see a copy of where she was served in 2013. I would like to see that copy. Get it, our county attorney, and ram it down my throat if it's true. You can't do it. Bottom line is, you have to restore order with ethics. You have ignored it all these years since 1990 when you passed your own resolution. You ignored it. All of a sudden this last year, you're running around having people sign things they don't even know what they're doing. And here we come again to another tax sale. Representative Cooknick, will you save any widows' homes this year, as you did in the past? Have any of you made efforts to contact the people in your districts? You got a lot of work to do in Unadilla and Otsego. It looks like the communities have a lot of places being taken there. So until ethics are restored, you can expect us to be here. And we can't go to the top man in the state. I know you said we need to go to whoever is the Attorney General. He's been indicted now, too, with the rest of them. Silver, Skelos, and we'll be lucky if this governor makes his time through it, too. Clean this county up. Rescission is the word. It doesn't mean you did anything wrong. We go right back to square one the way it was. Maria pays, and the title comes back to her, and she can move back there with her horses and live in peace. Until that happens, I guarantee we'll be here every month. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I'll try to make this quick. My name's Julie Huntsman. I live in Fly Creek on County Route 26. I just want to stand in support of the folks who have expressed concerns about X and G. I don't live along the route, but I certainly drive on 205. We all do. And trucks are scary. I try to stay the heck away from them. They go fast. You know, I don't have data, but anecdotally, these guys are going fast. They're probably tired, and they're in a hurry. Okay? 2 things you shouldn't be doing when you're driving. We all know that. We've all done it. It's stupid. to be tired and in a hurry, okay? And again, these are not trucks like milk trucks or Marabito trucks. They're not. They're heavy, and they have compressed explosive cargoes, so saying they're not the same, we know that. And this is not an argument about preventing a business from their legal, legitimate business and their legal right to be on a state road, of course. But as a former lowly elected official on a town board, I have a little bit of an inkling what it's like to sit where you do, and I have great respect for that and your service. And I've also been the impetus for passing a couple of resolutions in my brief time in politics. And people say, well, what's that? It's just a resolution, not a law. You can't do anything. And about this thing about X and G, it's so easy to say, we can't do anything. But I think sometimes the only thing that gets anything done is political will. And that's what resolutions are about. And this is nonpartisan. It is not Democrat, Republican, Independent, Conservative, Green, whatever. It is completely nonpartisan. And it is about those drivers' safety. It is about the safety of the people along the route. Consider the cost benefit. There is no cost to this legislative body taking a common sense, nonpartisan stand. And that's what this resolution would do. And sometimes things have to start small. I call it trickle up leadership. It's a common sense thing. There's no cost to this body, so I implore you to support it or some version of it and write to the Attorney General. They're wanting to hear from people, and you're hearing from people along the route, and I feel for them. I really do. The other cost-benefit thing, it's like anything. Okay, look at the cost of a worse accident with XNG, and given their track record, it seems unfortunately likely. Nobody wants anything to happen. Nobody wants anything to happen. But look at the odds, and the odds aren't good. So look at the cost of that versus the minor inconvenience to this company's plans of changing their route. And what do you think is a greater cost? I would say it's an accident. So, thank you for listening, and I implore you to act on this. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Hearing none, we'll move on to approval of minutes. July meeting. So moved. Second? All in favor? Aye. Approved. Presentations, petitions, communications, and notices.
I have the June report of ATI program services rendered by the actor.
Okay, now we'll move on to special presentations. Mark Watts from Chemung County Soil and Water District.
I'll probably do it back here so I don't put my back to those folks and you guys will be watching it up there.
So like Mr. Bliss said, this is Mark Watts. Mark Watts is the district manager for Chemung County Soil and Water. Mark has been running Chemung County Soil and Water for the last 35 years. And, you know, the program that I've been pushing here for the stream program for the last, 4 or 5 months is a direct example of what they're running. So everything that he's talked to you today is exactly how I'd like to see our program running in this county. So, thank you, folks.
I don't know if everybody can see that, if we want to drop a couple lights. I do have a short PowerPoint discussing our history of stream work. Again, I'm in Chemung County, which is in the southern tier of New York State. We are one of the most flood-prone areas around. As you can see, there's 2 pictures. On the right is 1972, on the left is 2011, same picture, same place. Looks like it's the same rainstorm. Last 2 weeks, we've had over 10 inches of rain. So there's the city of Elmira back in 72. And so 1977, what they did is the county legislature actually approved $50,000 to the Soil and Water District and said, go out there and see if you can help take care of streams. Now you see 1977, $50,000 was quite a lot of money. From 1970 to 1994, that's a drop in a bucket now to do some work. and we had Hurricane Beryl hit us in 1994. So what we did is we took, the county executive at the time said, go out there and find out how much damage is done. It was millions of dollars worth of damage. $75,000 wasn't gonna touch it. And the chair of the legislature says, hey, let's do a 1/3 program. That was our first program, ran from 1995 to 2011. And actually the town paid a third, the county paid a third, and the landowner paid a third. Did many projects for landowners on private property, which the district can do under district law. We can do that type of work. Residents liked it, they kind of had a buy into it then, and so they would maintain it. Worked well. Problem is, first 2 years we spent $350,000 on it. It got to be an expensive process. Though it went for 16 years, I think we ended up, the county had over $1 million of their money they put into that. So what it got to be is, it's too costly if we don't know year to year what's gonna happen. So the 1/3 program, they said we're gonna have to take that out just because we don't know what's happening. Even though it did win a state award for working in streams and working with landowners. We have so much of a problem down there, we actually wrote a book on it. We did give you copies of the book. That's like a no-nonsense books that we hand out to landowners and stuff, so you understand the stream processes and what goes through and what happens. We also reprinted that now in December of 2016, because we got rid of the first 10,000 books. So now 2011 to present, we got whacked again with some storms. Town of Chemung was one of them. The town supervisor and highway superintendent said, it's gotta be really nice if you guys had dedicated equipment to work on streams, work on flooding issues. So I knew just the person. The guy on the right is Jeff Parker, so this wasn't our brainchild. This actually came out of Steuben County. They actually got into the program where the county bought him an excavator. And the way he ran his program up there is he gives them a greatly reduced rate. Instead of like $150 an hour, it's $75 an hour. And they take that money and put it back into the account. We went a little farther, and actually Jeff wrote us a letter, and you'll have a bound copy of this PowerPoint. In there is also the letter and our memorandum of understanding we have with the municipalities. To let you know, Jeff wrote me a nice letter saying, here's what we did in Steuben County. They have 32 municipalities. This is how we got it running. The county exec bought into that. He says, I'll go to the legislature. And what the county was asked to do is front the money for the first part of the equipment. It was $400,000 to buy an excavator and a dozer. And then once they bought that, they didn't have to buy anything more. The only thing the county exec says, I need buy-in from the municipalities. So we met with each municipality, and they actually come up with a thing as a pilot program. We said, let's do this for 5 years. If after 5 years you don't like this program, we'll sell the equipment, give that money back to the county. Any money the municipalities put in, we'll give it back to you. All we're looking for is $1 per person. And what that ends up with in Chemung County, with our towns, we have 11 municipalities, about $60,000. We said we're gonna use that money for maintenance, upkeep, and insurance. And if it builds up, we'll use it to replace equipment. Did that in 2011. It was up in 2016, sent a letter out to the municipality, said, we're done with the 5-year pilot, do you wanna keep going? Never had to go to a meeting. They signed the dotted line and said, let's do it another 5 years. Why? Because you're gonna get a place like the town of Baldwin has a population of 853 people. So we rounded up, they pay $900 a year, but they have access to all the equipment with an operator. So we've been in there every year putting a box culvert in for them. If you don't think they save $900 by us doing all the work to do that box culvert, it's actually saved them enough money that usually they can buy another culvert or do some more work on their roads. We do all the work with them, they work with us. The only thing we had to do on this one is hire a crane to set the box with us. We did all the rock riprap work, all the hydro seeding, and I'll talk about the engineering and everything on that. But it saved them tremendous amount of money. We've done 3 boxes for them and a number of culverts. Plus, we have 4 excavators, and if they need an excavator, they call up, can we borrow an excavator? They can borrow it, still for that $900 fees. This is one at Hillcrest Road. Back, one year it was a 3-foot pipe by itself, flooded 6 houses. So we decided to put in a second pipe because they have a gas line there that we couldn't bury. Same issues, we kept getting flooding. There was the outlet of the stream, that house got flooded and the 6 houses below that. We actually went in there and had the gas line moved down. Actually went in there and paved all this with rock. And actually, we have time. We have 2, like I said, we had 10 inches. The landowner sent me 2 YouTubes, or whatever you want to call it, on this thing about this. If we didn't have this in, they all would have been flooded again. And it worked perfectly. They landscaped around it. As you remember, this was the inlet, we had 2 pipes, we now put that box, and we put grade control in so that it slowed the water down. It actually went upstream and put in 2 debris basins, because our problem was that storm was coming down, plugging the pipe, so we stopped that above. It comes in from your left into that first one, into the second one. Those both filled during that last storm event. We're in there now cleaning them out. The town maintains it once we put it in. But again, that guy is so tickled, it saved his property, saved his landowner's property. And it's gonna take us maybe a day to go in there and clean it, but it didn't wreck the road, didn't do anything for us that way. So able to give us grant opportunities with Dry Brook. If all we gotta do is buy the materials, a lot of work we can do. This is Dry Brook Road where it was sloughing down. Here we are at the bottom, putting in rock. And Jimmy Joe Carl is our engineer. We have an engineer on staff, so we can go from going out to look at the site, design the site, do the permits, do the construction, do everything. Why we make him work out there, because we do pay him pretty good. And no disrespect if there's any engineers in here, but they put a lot of stuff on paper that, boy, when you try to put it in the field, it just doesn't happen. So we make him come out and do this. And how we did on this one is there's 3 loads of rock. In his plans, he said each stone has to have 2 rock pins, 2 pins in each rock. We made him drill them. He did do the first one. The second one, God, only every 3rd rock needed it. Now we don't need anything on that top. So he's becoming a lot more workable with us on our engineering projects. We then went up onto the road, took out all the clay and stuff. And again, this is us working with the DPW folks. We have a lot of these. I know Jeff Harder calls them Geronimo pipes, where we have an outlet like that. That's 25 foot. We went back in and rock rip at that and stabilized that. We have a hydroseeder, same with Jordan, hydroseeded all. NRCS said that probably is going to be $307,000. Because we had the equipment and people, we did it for $100,000. We saved $207,000 on one project. Did the same thing on River Road, that we had a problem, an issue with the road sloughing off. Went in there again with DPW and our staff and the equipment that was purchased by the county and maintained by the towns. And there, and then this is all soil geotextile material that we're starting to utilize. Again, they said it was gonna be $168,000, we put it in for $105, saving them $60,000 on one project. So not only is the municipality saving money on this end, they're also getting valuable training on new techniques and stuff as they work with us on these projects. This is Jackson Creek Road, and how well this has come along. I told you we bought an excavator and a D6. This is a D5 Cat. One of the towns called us afterwards and said, we like how this is going, but we need another smaller dozer. We have $100,000. Will you guys come up with $50,000 to match it, and we'll own another one? Went to the county and said, no, you put up the initial 4, but would you put up another 25? I'll take 25 out of our maintenance account. Now we have another dozer. The nice thing about this dozer, they said the only stipulation of that dozer, it has to come with their operator. I said, what's that gonna cost? He said, nothing, we won't charge you for the operator, we just want our guy operating. Well, now that saves us a great amount of money when we do this. And then I'm not saying Cat, I don't own any stock in Cat, but they have a nice program now where every 2 years you can trade, and it's cheap. We just bought a brand new excavator, 2 years old, traded in about a new one for $13,000. That was 2 years old. That's a brand new one. The other one was 2 years old. We traded for $9,600 for a brand new dozer. So they're always under warranty. Again, working with the DPW staff, putting in the drainage, putting in the geotextile. Again, all they had was the cost of that was the cost of materials. This one went in and helped the town widen the road. And like I said, we had the hydroseeding. That was after we did the bank. That's what it looks like today. We do a lot of road ditch stabilization with them, with this equipment. These are just some before and after pictures. And like I said, this is all in the bound area with our PowerPoint in it. This is another project. We get into some large projects. This is White Hollow. You can see this is what they call a head cut. You see as this keeps getting wider and wider, the village actually went for a grant and got $180,000 to do this project. So we went in there to do some rock. That. Very nice community-minded person. We had to be on his property, needed to take out a lot of trees. We have a firewood processor and a skid steer, and he donated all the firewood to the elderly residents in the village. So we cut it, split it, and took it to the residents that were out there in the village. Went in there and did the work. You can see the side, we tried to get a floodplain going there. 8 days after we put it in, this was what was going on. That was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Starting to recede, I thought, went home. I don't live in this watershed. That watershed got a microburst, 11 o'clock that night, didn't know about it. Woke up the next morning, hear on the news, the village of Wellsburg had to be evacuated because of flooding. All I could think of was that $120,000 of the rock we just put in went on down to the village and had to have them evacuated. Luckily, we lost 8 rock that held beautiful, but that's what happened in the village. That's a railroad track that's in the middle. We're getting a lot of those, and you might be too, those microbursts where we're getting 5 inches in a half an hour, and it just deluges that it's hard to hold anything in there. So there's what it looked like when we started, there's what it looks like today. Plus, we can work on private property, so it gets into that where somebody's having a problem with the municipality, so they understand. This is one where it was eroding their banks. We went in there and put the eroded banks back, $4,000 worth of rock. Landowner paid this for the rock. They write the check out for the rock. If they buy the materials, we'll place them. This is one in the village of Millport. That was their creek and their 4-foot culvert they had plugged. We took that out, put the rock in. That was behind their house and brought that back. $6,000 worth of rock. She wrote a check out for the $6,000 worth of rock. We were able to go in there with the municipality and take care of that. We do a lot of training with that so that our highway guys and everybody knows what's going on. This is Newtown Creek. You can see there's not much cover there, a lot of eroded banks. We actually had Dave Derrick, who's world-renowned in stream banks, come in. Skyler came down, USC came down, brought all their equipment. 3 days we did a training out there with a bunch of districts, a bunch of NRCS folks and that, to show them longitudinal slope protection. That's what it looks like today. The trout are back in there, and it was just a nice project. And again, all we had to do was pay for the materials because we had the equipment and staff. We've done emergency stream training with our highway guys. Again, we did another project with Dave Derrick in 3 days. Went up there. This was eroding, and in the background to the right, that's a dike that protects the village. It was starting to get into that dike, which I'll talk about. Went in there and did a lot of vegetation. We do have a drone, so we do some drone flights now. That's what it looks like today. That dike that protects the village got washed out in the 70s. They asked if we could go in there and fix it with our equipment, so we went in there and dug out the bad parts. Our municipalities all hauled us some material from one of our other projects. There's the D6 we own, going back in and packing that. Repaired the dike. It really didn't cost anything because we got the material from another project to fix that. If we'd have bid that out, we know that would have been a $100,000 to $200,000 project. Where did we get the material? This was a project we had, we call it Jackson Farm Basin. There's a stream that follows the base of that hill that floods downstream, and what we wanted to do was give it more floodplain. So we brought in I guess a spillway that actually lets the water come back into this area and floods that entire area. That area is probably 60 acres. It had 18 inches of the most beautiful topsoil you wanted to see, and 3 foot of nice gravel and some clay. We've been taking that to use in other projects to save money on that. This is going to be a $400,000 project. It's going to cost absolutely nothing. It's going to take us probably 8 years to build it, but as we need material, we go in here and just keep working our way towards getting more flood control. Again, some more flood control. That was a gravel pit. We took South Creek and brought that in to that 60 acres of wetland before it goes into Southport to reduce some flooding downstream. We actually go on private property if they're willing to donate the property. Not that they donate, they still pay taxes, they can fish it, they don't have to let people on it. But we're trying to go in the upper watersheds and build wetlands like this that provide fire protection, provide flood protection, and provide nice habitat for those animals up there. And we've built 14 in the upper watersheds. Just so now, the highway culverts and the town culverts, now they meet capacity. You know, we always wait and say, oh, it didn't take us, we'll put a bigger pipe in. We're trying to reverse that and say, let's keep the water on the hill. We worked with others, DEC, this is a project they wanted us on. This is a pool digger they had that was digging so deep that the trout couldn't get up in there. And I like this picture because DEC actually let us go in the water. They actually let us build it. This is permitted by DEC. Let us go in that water to build what we call an engineered riffle to bring the stream bottom back up so the fish could get back up that slope. We do a lot with DOT now. DOT will buy the materials if we help them on some projects. Just looked at 3 of them we're going to help them with this year. That came from the last few rainstorms. Again, they buy the materials, we place it, help them place it. And it's made it a lot nicer when we're working in their right of ways. It used to be a hard time getting a permit from them. Now it's as easy as going to meet with them, and they work right with us. Bring the people, help shut down the road if we need to. So it works out well. We've done work with parks. They needed they had to have, this was actually the Friends of the Catherine Valley asked us to help the state put I think they've been working 3 years to try to get a parking lot there. In 3 days, we knocked one in for them. All they had to do was provide us with the materials. We've even left the county, went up to Yates County. They got some money from Senator O'Mara, but it wasn't enough that they had to hire done. So we helped them engineer and actually took our equipment up there in Yates County, helped put the Cuca Valley Trail back in, or Cuca Outlet Trail. Was in Tompkins County last year helping them with some road issues they had, so that we're trying to get them so that they are getting into the same one. Do a lot with Schuyler County, and actually Schuyler County now has bought our old excavator, since we got a new one. They just bought a loader. They're trying to slowly get into this process. And they do a lot of box culverts. And again, all we have to do is pay for the materials because we have the equipment now, manpower. This is one on Decker Road where they had 2 culverts. They were always catching debris. I went in there with our machine, helped them take them out. Again, all we had to do was hire a contractor and a crane to come in and set it. That's what it looked like we got done. We were then at the Church Street on the bridge replacement, the Village of Millport. The Village of Millport, their total assets is a wheelbarrow. That's the only money they have. They said, we have this, we don't know what to do with it. We did the hydrology, and guess what? An 8-foot pipe would work there. So we went back to the town of Cayuta, which we just did that project in Schuyler County. And they don't have money either. Their whole highway crew was helping us on that job was 2 people. Highway superintendent, 1 employee. Said, hey, we could use this, would you sell it to us for scrap or anything like that, so we can get a greatly reduced price? Went to the board said, hey, you guys helped us out, come and get them. So they gave us the pipe, and we put it in there. All the village had to buy was some riprap. The total cost of that was less than $12,000, put in a whole new replacement. We almost walk on water now in the village there. Guys are happy. They like working with us, they like the program. We have a Christmas luncheon every year where we bring everybody in. They like to see the projects that they're involved with. These are 2 guys in the town of Big Flats that work with us on a lot of projects. Again, this one won a state award. Like I said, this came from the brainchild from Steuben County, but now Steuben's in it, Chemung's in it, Schuyler's in it, and we love to see Otsego County maybe get into it. Back in the day, I think my last one, I said, here's some of the 2018 projects we were going to do. I actually got a couple pictures of ones we did get started. This is a dry brook replacement. This was on a Monday. Pipe came in. That was Wednesday, less than 3 days with us putting it in. Again, the only cost was the pipe and the rock. Went upstream now. This is the dry brook box culvert. Went in there. That's both our pieces of equipment. We rented a hammer. That was Monday. That was Monday night. Tuesday into Wednesday. That was Thursday morning about 8 o'clock. About 8:30 we started to place them with that. And as you can see that was at 1 o'clock. We had that all set. And again, all we had to do was hire the crane to come in and help set it. There's some rock. We put the rock in there trying to slow the water down and do that. It's been a great program. Like I said, the people like it. Here's another Jerusalem Hill, one of those stormwater ones. There's the 2 dozers, the excavator we own. That's after we strip the topsoil. And what there is to the left there's a road pipe that comes in, and to the right there's a road pipe that comes in. And it's hard to see, but there is a concrete thing at the bottom of that. That's built 3 times already. Stopping that water, to stop the flooding from downstream. And actually, the municipality's taking over maintenance of that, but it's just mowing. It's worked out so well that now there was a town that approached us and said, it'd be nice to have something to drive around taking trees out of the culverts as we're getting plugged instead of trying to run an excavator around. The county gave us a truck, worked with the town of Chemung, bought a used Prentice loader, and for about $30,000 we built ourselves a log truck. That's now in this, so that if somebody wants to go around, we have those, we clean out the culverts, clean out the things, and it's just all municipal owned. It's maintained by that maintenance fund that we have in the municipalities. We own some other equipment. This is one we own with Schuyler County Soil and Water, so we share a lot of equipment. But it's worked out well. We went from that 400,000, I think we're about to 1.8 million in equipment now. We've been able to just if we get a grant here, somebody says, well, this would be nice to own this, we've been able to shift around and find somebody to buy other equipment. There's one we did in Vanette, that's a 5-foot pipe, went in there and replaced that, but that, I know that's quick, I'm trying to get through it, because I know you guys got a big agenda, but any questions? I did give you a couple of our newsletters to show you what we've done, the booklet, and then the PowerPoint. And with all the verbiage that they gave us, that Steuben County gave us, and our intermunicipal agreements with the towns. I'm sure if you want to talk to any of the towns down there, I can give you some numbers down there, but they love it. They never sign one so quick again, because they see the value and how much money they're saving. Their CHIPS money goes farther now, everything.
So you had your own way to hire your own engineer on staff.
Yes.
Were there any how were you able to also obtain the software and training for the engineer? Did your engineer have a PE certification when they started?
Yes, he was a New York licensed surveyor. And actually how he came aboard is we're an MS4 community.
Oh, I see.
Which is a municipal separate storm sewer system, so we had to develop a program. And actually, the county and all the municipalities pay into a fund that have that stormwater program. So as part of that, they have access to that engineer that does all the reviews of the new, if you're building a house or building anything that comes in new, he has to make sure that meets all the MS4 stuff. Plus, he does hydrology work for us and engineering on the side for us for projects.
When you say building a house, you mean floodplains and all that?
Well, in MS4, you have to have a program where, DEC used to take care of erosion sediment control and stormwater. If you're in MS4, DEC said, okay, you're gonna take care of it now. You're gonna fund it, you're gonna take care of it, it's on you now. And then DEC audits us to make sure we're doing their program for them.
You have the Bay requirements too.
Yes, and the Bay, and Chesapeake Bay requirements are on us too.
Yeah, and then the stormwater's a big deal. That
Yeah.
relates to nitrogen requirements.
And actually, that program is, like I said, funded through the county and the municipalities. That's a $300,000 a year program. We have an engineer, a technician, and an educator. And then, because if it wasn't, all 11 municipalities, or I think there's 17 MS4s actually, they have to do their own program. And it was just easier, let's all do it the same. So if you're a developer, you come in, you have to deal with 17 different things. You come in as one, we're consistent. And then he's been able to do other projects for us as we get going.
So another question, I guess, when you have, Chemung is relatively it's relatively small.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about the difference in speed, getting into a stream as opposed to going traditionally through WQIP and other grant mechanisms?
Oh, like DOT, I looked at that Monday, if they said go, we'd be in there Tuesday. We don't have a lot of classified streams, so that would take a little longer, but unclassified streams, we've been at long enough that actually the Corps of Engineers has given Chemung County the ability to write our permits. So we write our own permits going into streams, and then they audit me every so often, and come out and take a look at it. But no, we're quick. If it needs it, we can mobilize and be there.
And then the traditional, going back to the traditional way, how long do you think?
A WQIP, we don't even deal with that anymore much, because it could be 3 to 4 years. By the time you put in an application, and then you're competing, okay, you get it, now you gotta go through the gateways process, you gotta go through the contract, you gotta get everybody on board. If we waited for that, we probably wouldn't, this program, now we have this program, yeah, we have a long-term one, we can put one in, and if we get it, we get it, if we don't, we don't. But I wouldn't have this program if I had to count on WQIP to be the way I handle
So
it.
it's much more consistent, so you just literally don't need it.
No. Now, if the landowner wants it, and you want to put the money in for materials, and I think they're coming around, it used to be, well, I don't see, well, if I come to your house and say, you buy the lumber, I'll build you a house, and all you gotta buy is the lumber, what better deal could you get? And it's the same with that. If you want us to help you with your stream, all you gotta do is buy the material. We'll do the labor, fuel, insurance costs, everything. All you gotta do is buy the material. And then they have a buy-in so that if a tree comes down and gets caught, they're in there cutting it out. Where if we paid for everything, they tell us, hey, your tree's in here again. So it's kind of made them get into a buy-in, so they have ownership of it now.
That's helpful. Thank you.
Hi, Mark. So Jordan has been going from town to town and explaining the program to them, and I would say the most common question that gets asked is how do you make a decision? Let's say you have a bunch of towns with big culvert issues. How do you decide fairly how to prioritize?
It really hasn't been that bad for us yet, 'cause we just say, you know, and they're understanding, we have good communication with our towns, so we're gonna do our best to get to everybody, but it's probably gonna be, you know, is that the road that's gotta be open all the time, or, you know, can I do this? But a lot of it, we haven't had that issue.
You haven't had-
Everybody's willing to wait in line,
Okay.
as long as they know they're getting it. And I think it'd be harder if you instituted this program like during a flooding event. You know, we haven't been flooded, so it wasn't like we had 5,200 projects to do, and we slowly get in, but, even, I was with Catlin last year, and we're gonna do a lot for Catlin. They said, we almost feel bad that you're in Catlin all the time, but they know it's their turn this time. We may not be back here for 3 years, as they know, hey, you had your chance to come over here, but, 11 towns we haven't had. We have good communication with our towns, and they all get along and do shared services, so they're not, well, why ain't you here yet? They've been really good about waiting their turn.
Would you say that every town on that agreement has had some work done in
Yes.
5 years?
Oh, yeah. Oh, I think every year we're in a town. Yep.
And I noticed that in the second agreement, shared services agreement, that the county, in the first one was offered a choice of 20,000 to the maintenance fund or providing equipment operator, and they've just decided now we'll do the equipment operator and not the 20,000.
Well, actually-
That's changed in the second.
My equipment operator actually comes from the town of Horseheads, which is,
So the county's burden now is just assisting with the maintenance and transportation
Yes.
and providing fuel. They don't have any contribution to the maintenance fund at all.
no,
Because
unless,
somebody has volunteered from another town to do
yeah,
this.
actually, well, what they did, they were good. And I hope they never, I know they must know this, because they were gonna have to put up $19,000 at town of Horseheads. They said, well, instead of putting up 19,000, we'd rather give you an employee. I don't pay salary, I don't pay workman's comp, I don't pay retirement, I don't pay anything. He's mine, and they said.
Dedicated.
Yep, and he says if we ever need him back, we have the option to call him, yep. 5 years, or what are we into it now? He's been called back twice for snowplow, that's it. Otherwise, we provide him a truck, he goes there, gets in this truck, and right to the job. And we're lucky, and the same thing with Steuben counties, their operator comes from the highway department. So it is good if you can find that, so you don't have that cost. And what's nice is to have one operator, once you train him on the different techniques, and he's not a contractor where we gotta get in, get it done. He trains, he lets the guys get on that machine and place the rock themselves, so they learn why we're trying to do what we're doing for grade control and stuff. It's worked out very well. But I'm lucky, I don't know what would happen if town were, now he is gonna retire, and I think we're gonna have to hire him back. So I will have a cost there, but our maintenance fund's gotten to the point where I think we could handle that. Because he doesn't need health insurance and all that, we just have to pay him an hourly rate to work maybe 8 months a year.
So theoretically, so when you talk about the maintenance fund, that's the fund that the town's paying through like the $1 a person.
Yep.
So have you ever had to spend that down, or does it keep building up?
Like he said, I'm at 80,000 right now, it's 60,000 a year, so I'm 20,000 higher than he. And I think I may get down to 50, but that's actually buying 2 new excavators. Because I'm into that 2-year, if I can get into it, my hope is this year I buy 2 dozers, next year I buy 2 excavators, then trade in those 2 dozers. 'Cause it looks like about $25,000 a year I can have new stuff every 2 years.
So that fund essentially remains stable even with the purchasing.
Yep. And it's still in the agreement that if at any time this dissipates, the machinery gets sold, that money goes back. I mean, it'll go back to the county, whatever they put in. They put up,
Up to 4.
yeah, I got 1.8 million, you're not gonna get that back. You know, we'd have to work out, maybe the towns would get that back or something, but the county would get their initial funding back. You put in 425,000, here's it back. And then the municipalities would get the money back minus expenses.
What, how did, when you put this together, there, you know, some of the pushback is that some of the towns are saying, well, we only have one stream, you know, but we, some of the larger municipalities in Chemung, like Elmira, obviously is gonna pay a lot more in, Horsehead's
Yep.
gonna pay a lot more in.
Yep.
And I know that they have streams issues in both those towns, but some of the others in Otsego County would argue that, oh, we only have one stream, but we're gonna pay more in. You know, how did you kind of,
We didn't have that issue.
you didn't have that?
Because that, and even the ones that are paying $16,000, $17,000, if I'm putting in one box for them or doing,
It's worth it
they're
for
getting their
them.
money back,
Yeah.
hands down.
Yep.
And a lot of times they're using CHIPS funding, so instead of, okay, doing one box, maybe we can do a box and a culvert.
Yep.
Or I can pave this much more, or, like I said, it was the fastest, I never had to go to a meeting. I just sent a letter saying, hey, this was our pilot, we're coming to the end of it, we have to decide if we're gonna move forward or not. They signed it, sent it right back, never went to one meeting.
Because they're in an MS4 designated area, is there any way that the work that is done by you and your projects is compensated in a different way than a project that was done outside of an MS4 area?
No,
Because
the only thing the MS4 may help us, and they don't have it yet, because they don't have a way, they have a model that we feed, it's easy for agriculture and stuff like that, but they got stormwater there, but they don't have a way to say, okay, if we did stream bank stabilization, we don't get credit for that in the model yet.
Okay.
We're working towards that, but there's a whole mathematical thing you gotta go through, that if we say we did 50 foot of stabilization, what's that worth? How much sediment did that stop, how much nitrogen? They don't have that.
Oh, they don't?
They don't have that, no, they're working on it, so we
Okay,
don't get any
somebody
credit
does.
yet.
Oh, but so in the future there might?
Yeah, I think they're working hard on stormwater, because we're not meeting our TMDL.
Oh, right, yeah, and now I have one other thing. I know that we talked when you came to SWEC that Chemung has a shrinking agricultural
Yes.
population, and in Otsego we have, well, it might, whatever, it's bigger than that. So Jordan does a lot of work within our ag population. Now, you're freed up to do a lot of the stormwater work because you don't have to work with the farms. Do you have to pay for the people who actually do come in and do the work on the farms?
Well, actually, I have a contract with Schuyler County.
So
To do
you
mine.
do?
Yes.
Yeah, so there is a bit of a cost to doing the stream work that you have to pay to
Well,
get
what
your
it-
ag work done.
They do have what they call an ag environmental management
Uh-huh,
program, so we
Right.
get 30,000 from the state. I'd
Right.
like to give that 30,000 to
you just
Schuyler,
funnel it through to them.
to Schuyler to
Okay.
take care of that
Yeah,
project.
just-
So
I
if
just
there's not
wanted
a
to address
cost
that issue, yeah,
to the county,
it's a pass
it's a
through.
pass-through.
Okay,
And we work in conjunction with them, and actually, we build stuff on farmland. If they get a
Mhm.
grant and we can build it with this equipment,
right,
we can do it.
available to do
Yep.
that, okay.
So how much staff do you have right now?
There's 3 at the district and 3 in stormwater, so there's 6 of us.
6 of us. I think Jordan, you have 9, right?
Correct. I have 4 in ag and,
Five in streamwater.
yeah, a couple,
Yeah, so slightly different.
And we're smaller.
no.
I guess the other question, is, I have is, with this new program, have you guys started looking at how much money you're saving, in the event of a 100-year flood? Like another, say, another barrel hits and you have all those projects in.
It's hard, because I don't know if you have a chance, if you get out of there, is 2 things, like that one at Hillcrest, if they would have flooded those 6 homes, how much damage would there have been? It's hard to quantify that, we know it didn't happen because of what we put in, but can you put a dollar figure to it?
That's hard.
It is. And those wetlands, we know that the town's highway guys come in and said, hey, that culvert used to flood all the time, now that you put those wetlands in there, that culvert is good. Well, what is the benefit of that? The benefit is we haven't had to upgrade it, but how do you put a number to that? To say, hey, we saved it.
After scouring, you're not having
Yeah,
washout.
yeah. And we're not, and FEMA's good about, hey, we come in there, you got a 2 foot, let's put a 4 foot in there, bigger. Well, that just sends it down quicker, so we're trying to say, let's keep it on the hill, let's recharge our watersheds and not start our head cuts. And we could probably build them 365 days a year. There's enough people that want us to build these on their property. And we've seen when we built these that we're not having the issues of, plug culverts and stuff like that, because it's staying up on the hill and metered out.
Okay, does anybody else have anything? Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys, appreciate it.
Okay, we have another presentation from the planning department on countywide shared services.
It was the same, yes.
Good morning, everybody. I was asked to come to present the countywide shared service plan that we developed over the last 12 days. Dave and I met with Susan Savage from DOS on the 18th. She was checking on the status of our plan. We hadn't had one at that point. So we worked pretty quickly to get 6 projects that we we've identified that will save quite a bit in this county as far as taxpayer money. I'm going to burn through this information quick, and I'm just going to talk about those 6 projects for the sake of everyone's time. I'll take questions at the end. But the CWSSI is expanding on Governor Cuomo's commitment to reduce property taxes and modernize local government services by fostering new shared service initiatives and enhancing existing collaborations in place. This is for 57 upstate counties, excluding New York City counties. And that collaboration is what is really going to show those tax dollar savings in these projects in our county as well. Who is involved? We have to develop a shared service panel. That is a 35-member panel in this county. Every chief elected official of the municipality serves on that panel, and Dave, as the county chair of the board, is a 35th member. School districts, special districts, BOCES, they can be involved in this program. Partnerships for taxpayer savings can be recouped, but they do not have a vote in the process. So what is the goal? We're developing the shared service plan. A 35-member panel will develop a countywide tax services property tax savings plan to identify, propose, and implement new actions to save taxpayer money through shared, coordinated, efficient services with local governments within the county. These have to be new initiatives. They cannot be existing. It's kind of a gray area if they're not officially, there's no memorandum of agreement or anything else in place. We could probably fit those in following years. And that's mostly through highway departments where we're going to see that. Right now it's in draft form. It's going to be going up on the website later today. August 1st was our draft deadline. So we'll have instructions there for written comments on the plan. Ask you to review those. If there's any projects that any of you think we could include in this plan, it's January 1, 2019 through December 31st, 2019, savings in that calendar year. You get those in, we just need to know who's going to be participating on the municipal level, and we need to know figures. Because this plan is due September 15th up to the state. So that state match funding is a one-time match over that calendar year on the net savings, not the cost of implementation. And I'll just cover some of our savings we're proposing. Estimations, but they're pretty close from what we have figured in our plan. So covered all this, and just kind of a repeat of that. Our next steps, right now in the process, we're in the review stage. Written comments are going to be due to our department by August 17th. We've had to have 3 public meetings. First one this morning, we have 2 more scheduled. The last one being the September 5th meeting, and we're hoping to vote on this September 6th. But we have another meeting set up for August 21st up at the Meadows Office Complex at 7 p.m. That's going to be kind of our final workshop meeting in preparation of this final plan to be voted on the 6th. We have to have a quorum of that 35-member panel. So this is where we're going to rely on you to talk to those representatives in your districts and make sure that they understand the importance of being there for that vote. It needs to be cast in writing at the meeting. There cannot be a proxy. It has to be that elected official. We will be sending out invitations and be corresponding with them, but we had a decent turnout. So we had 38 people at our kickoff meeting, which was at ONC BOCES. 9, 10, including Dave, elected officials showed up, and a number of other people from highway departments and other things came there. So, we can email these out. Instructions will be provided on the website. If this plan is not approved or we do not get a quorum, the chief elected official will have to release a report to the public on why this plan was not approved or acted upon within the county. The report must include the vote of the panel, written justification of each panel member provided to the chief elected official, and the vote must be attached to the report. The plan is not acted upon by the deadlines in 2018. We're going to have to do this process in 2019. If it is not approved, we have the potential for leaving a significant amount of money on the table that we can be reimbursed for projects that are going to be taking place next year anyway. Again, we have to have agreements in place. That can happen in 2019. The one thing we're going to need in 2018 for the service plan is to know those participating municipalities, because we can carry over projects with municipalities that do not participate in 2019 into 2020. So we want to be able to recruit as much funding as we can. Again, needs to be present for the September 6th vote. We'll be sending those out. One thing that we are stressing that came up yesterday that was unclear, a vote for yes for the plan is not a vote for the municipality to participate in the project. Separate memorandum of agreement have to be established for each project with each municipal entity. With that being said, Jenna, I'll have you pull up that Word document. I'll just go right to, there's a table right around page 8. And I'll just quickly cover the 6 projects that we've identified. And actually, we talked to Jordan, who I think is left, on a 7th project with hydro seeding that he already has going on in the municipality. So we could get those agreements in place.
Eric, are you forwarding this document to us?
This document's going to be on the website, but I can email
Can you
it.
forward it to the whole board?
Yeah.
And the PowerPoint?
And also, I know we discussed all the meetings and everything yesterday, but, you know, a lot of information to absorb. Can you put together some types of
Something that's clearly sets those steps and those dates out there. So if you scroll down, Jenna, while you're on page 8, people. Right there. I'm sorry, keep going. Right here. Okay. So our 6 projects, I'll just go right through these in order and just give a quick and dirty version of these. We have our Highway Asset Management Program. This is going to be an online ArcGIS platform that the county is going to be providing to all municipalities. Right now we have 14 on board. Our tax savings in 2019 as a cost avoidance, $34,394. We plan on continuing this one to 2020. Those initial 13 municipalities in the county lead the way with that. There's other savings that we can show, especially at the county level. This program and this asset management side of things, sign replacements, they're on a 10-year schedule. We're finding that the other counties that are doing this are getting 20 years out of their sign. So we could potentially eliminate over that 10-year period $1.25 million in sign replacements. Municipal accounting software distribution. This is something the Treasurer's Office is looking at. Right now we're using Microsoft GP. It is not set up for municipal accounting services. We're looking at two pieces of software, Systems East and Munis. Both of those would provide that municipal accounting and payroll, but also a property tax side of that, which can be distributed to the municipalities. There's a lot of savings there. Again, it's a cost avoidance measure, but also productivity and just efficiency. Our municipalities are using a number of different products, Hamilton L being one of the software packages that they use at about 50% of the municipalities, and the school districts are even more scattered. So it requires a lot of reformatting and a lot of stuff in the Treasurer's Office that, if provided, will streamline things. And really, we wouldn't even have to have anything sent. We would have access to that data at the Treasurer's Office. So again, that's a software system that would be provided. We're getting those participating municipalities for this year. Those that are not on, we're going to roll over into 2020. The county municipal email share, this is between the county of Otsego and the Cooperstown Village Police Department. Cooperstown PD is not compliant with the law. They are using Hotmail as their system right now. It's illegal. They do not have archival procedures set up. So our IT department is going to offer Zimbra. We have a few licenses left. As that share, they will save approximately $11,000. Most of that is licensing, a server fee, and annual maintenance. So that'll get Cooperstown PD up to law, up to the code of the law, and it may be a model that we might be able to branch out other municipalities. I think Brad Corney said it was about $3 a user to add other people on. So again, in the future, we might be able to add a lot of municipalities on this service and save some taxpayer money. Public safety records management software. Right now, the Sheriff's Department uses SJS. It's a state-provided software system. We're looking at, I can't remember the name of the software. I think it's Cushman, or it may be another system anyway. It would allow Otsego County Sheriff's Department and the local police jurisdictions to have a database that they can share information with. Right now, I guess there's restrictions as to what can be shared with Village PD, Oneonta PD, Sheriff's Department. This would allow kind of an open source sharing with them, so just kind of improving public safety in those records side of things. Again, it's licensing, server, and maintenance for that project. And ongoing, those those 2020 recurring savings are minimal right now, they're estimated, but that upfront cost is $37,000 being saved. The shared public works equipment agreement, this is Village of Milford, Village Cooperstown. Milford is going to buy a combo truck, street sweeper, and catch basin cleaner. They're also going to buy a trailer mounted crack sealer system. That's the total of those two pieces of equipment, $333,500. Village of Cooperstown owns those pieces of equipment. Instead of buying those, there will be an agreement set up between those two municipalities. And that cost avoidance, we were told we could use that number to show our savings. We still have to figure out our 2020 recurring savings. It's basically going to be set on depreciation of those pieces of equipment. So our last project was Jordan's project that they just presented on. That has been put in. We don't have numbers on what that will save yet. But we know that there's 10 projects set up in the Butternut Valley of this county. Those are going to be included this year, as well as potentially his hydro seeding program. When this reimbursement works, it's an equal distribution. So the simple one, Village of Cooperstown, Police Department in the county, that $11,000, which is around up to $12,000 savings, is going to be split evenly. You know, the county will bring back $6,000. Village of Cooperstown will bring in $6,000. We provide that service. Does not, you know, Cooperstown does not have cost moving forward. Compliant with all the law. Again, even further, you know, equal distribution. That'll be, you know, split 14 ways that first project. So that's how that reimbursement's set up at the state level. That being said, those are our 6 projects, and I'll just open up for any quick questions if anyone has any. We have a few projects that were identified already for next year's plan, that being the healthcare consortium, possibly the four-town combination, and maybe our shared transit facility with the highway garage. So, you know, any projects that could be implemented over the upcoming years, keep those in mind. Bring those to us because we'll be doing this process again next year and early next year, I'm assuming. So, any questions?
I'd just like to comment and thank you for, I mean, a lot of these projects for, you were working on these, but thank you for putting them together so quickly for here. And as you said, the meeting yesterday was very well attended, and with one exception, everybody was very receptive.
Yeah, definitely receptive, and it's good. If it works as it's proposed, it's a good opportunity for the county. We don't know, you know, the Department of State is, you know, they have a good set of guidelines, but there's some things that may change. You know, I think that they're still figuring this program out, but they're telling us that everything's in place and there is a sum of money that can be reimbursed. So, any questions, you can contact our department. I will email everything, including the timeline I'll get together. You know, maybe we'll see if there's upcoming meetings, but we need the September 6th meeting. We need the quorum there, so we will be reaching out and need you as well, just as an alternative. September 10th will be a date if we can't get a quorum on the 6th, so we're hoping that's not needed, but we'll vote that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Karen. Okay. Gone quite a little while here. Maybe we should take a quick break before we start the report. Try to keep it as short as possible, and we'll get back to the possible project. Committee reports.
I've been ignoring you for so long. I needed somebody.
Yeah, I'll run down and I'll be in the building.
It's gonna be funny, I'm getting big.
Let me know though.
All right.
All right, Brian.
Good.
Okay. We're at reports of standing committees, Public Works, Representative Oberon.
Thank you, Chairman Bliss. Things are moving ahead of schedule at Highway as far as our paving goes and resurfacing. We are scheduled to be on track to handle 52 miles of county roads this year. Believe it or not, that's a 73% increase over what we've done previously, which would average about 30 miles per year, and at a cost of about $4 million. Paving has been completed on County Highways 13, 48, 6, 29A, 39, 16, and 22.
And we're doing chip sealing on County Highway 6 and 48, and that should be completed by the end of August. We've been doing some shoulder backup work on County Highway 13, and we should finish our first course of shoulder backup on County Highway 14 today. We've replaced some box culverts on County Highway 16 and 18 and 1, and they are all installed. The box culverts and the new culvert that we will be replacing on 46 has come in at a cost to us at the county of about $150,000 versus, that's us doing it in-house, versus $700,000, which is what we had been quoted had we bid it out. So by using our in-house talent and our own equipment, it is definitely a cost savings to the county. First time, we've completed our first time of mowing around the county, and are now starting our second pass through. We've installed a couple of catch basins on County Route 54, just outside the village. Cold in place recycling has been completed, and paving will start on County Highway 14. Again, the numbers that are coming back by us doing it in-house with our own talent, we are looking at $67,000 per mile versus if we were to bid it out and use outside contractors, coming in at $160,000. So again, in-house talent is proving it is cost effective. And we are able to replace those culverts by the new excavator that was brought in, and that one, those projects right there that were $150,000 was more than paid for our new excavator and money that we've saved. We did have our two new mowers. I've got pictures here of our John Deere mowers. They were arrived on Monday, July 16th, and were put into service the next morning. We're in a situation now coming in where we're planning for the plowing season, where we are in dire need of some personnel. We have 5 retiring. We don't have enough operators currently, and with the potential 5 that are retiring, it is going to be an issue, or a potential issue, moving forward when it comes to winter plowing. We're also finding out that our beginning wage, if you will, for a road maintainer at $13 and some $13.72 is really not attracting the type of or any interest, if you will, put out on the street for getting new personnel. One of the things that we may want to consider, or in my opinion we should consider moving forward, is to look at increasing our starting wage and hopefully attract some more people for the upcoming season. It is going to be a challenge. Our new trucks, the 13 new trucks that we have ordered, are making their way through the system. They're being fitted both with the boxes and with the plows. We do have one of our new trucks at the county fair, and we've actually put in there, if you're interested in this nice new piece of equipment, would like to drive it, we'd accept some applications. So I will report back hopefully at the next meeting as to how that went. Under Highway 2, we did have a new building, I call it the new building project meeting yesterday at BOCES. This was a cursory meeting to kind of put BOCES, Otsego County, and the town of Milford kind of together in the same room and seeing if a new highway facility would make sense. There were some key points that were brought out at the end of it, just giving everybody kind of an overview. The 3 entities, BOCES, of course, County Highway and the town of Milford agreed to see merit in the project and to move forward. So the points that are being brought up or that will be clarified as we have our next meeting is there actually enough land and or room needed that BOCES could afford to talk about relinquishing, if you will, and the second being who would be the lead agency moving forward, and thirdly, basically who's going to own the facility. So those were just some key points. I do have some updates on the surplus vehicles. We found that we could piggyback off of Saratoga County potentially for a auction company. This would be Collar City Auctions. The one advantage that I saw after kind of looking at what they had to offer was that Auctions International, who we've used previously, charges a $30 fee per vehicle for photo taking, whereas Collar City does not. There is no cost. They will come in and market that and take photos for nothing. We'll be bringing that up at our next Public Works meeting to get either approval for that. Tower management, RFP has gone out. There have been 2 respondents, and Rob O'Brien and our purchasing agent are reviewing those moving forward. Under building maintenance, we're doing just basic upkeep and maintenance of the buildings around. The major project moving forward will be the public safety building, which will do the renovations project. One of the areas of concern and logistics moving forward was what to do with our population once the renovations take hold. One of the issues being to crane over new units over top of the roof. Those the dorms could not be occupied, and we are in serious need of room there, so the potential will have to be to board out those residents when that work is being conducted. So costs are being calculated as to what that would be. Nothing as far as under real property that we are overseeing at the moment. Nothing has been done as far as the building at 242 and or Roses Hill at the moment. Those will again, be moving forward, but with our laundry list that we have right now on the scale, it's kind of moved down in a prioritized fashion. I believe that is all I have to report at the moment, and I would be more than happy to take any and all questions.
Keep the parts store at RFP.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I got it actually right here. It has gone out and is being reviewed right now. So we haven't heard, in fact, even our current one, Gillies, hasn't come back yet with anything.
So what's the deadline for response?
I believe it is, I didn't bring my glasses.
Help auction.
My arms aren't long enough. Should be right there. So it says proposed by, and they left the date open, so I'll have to get back to you on that. It's not in here. Thank you, Michelle.
Well, what are we gonna look it over and then at the next meeting, send it out?
I believe you're right, Keith. Yeah, I believe we talked about that. It would be going out,
I don't think it's gone out yet.
Oh, it hasn't gone to Onondaga?
No, we just got it.
We just
At
did
the
draft
last
that.
meeting, we were gonna look at it and then give him approval to send it out.
Fill in the date.
Good, yes.
Pete, Roses Hill, that is that the proposed action on that is still the sale, right? Subdividing and sale, because it was in the 17 budget,
Correct,
it's in the 2018 budget, right?
correct.
Okay.
It is for the sale of, so we have subdivided out the acreage for where the tower is.
Right.
And so the remaining acreage would be the ones that we are looking to
Has the
sell.
survey been completed?
Yes, yes. Yeah, we just have to.
But it hasn't been listed yet, the actual property.
Correct. I guess the question that has come to my mind is do we list it? Do we auction it? Do we bid it? I mean,
There have been a couple interested parties approached the county already.
I did receive, yes, I did receive one phone call. I believe it's from the adjoining property owner and wanting to get some information as to where we were status-wise, so. But there was nothing else discussed as far as terms or anything.
I think right now, Pete, that the property is in the process of being appraised. If Rob were here, he would know that. And so I don't know if that's finished yet, do you?
The appraisal, I haven't seen it being finished yet.
I mean, the company to do it was chosen.
Right.
And I did talk to the town of Otsego about, because we're splitting it up, and we're gonna make that happen. That will be a simple process. And then I think, yeah, once you have the value, you can decide how you wanna do it. Sealed bids or public auction, you could do that too.
But we would have to legally advertise it first, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So in order to get that done, by the end of the year, see the money.
Right.
Budget report.
I mean, I think we're close, because the town of Otsego turned out, it was a simple process for them, and I think you just need to get the valuation so you know where you're starting from, and then after that, you can decide public auction, see if it.
Anything else?
What was the mileage total again? 70?
Mileage that we have done right now is 52 miles this year. Correct.
That's the total for the year.
It was 73% more than what we
Oh, right.
have averaged the previous.
73%, thank you.
Okay, intergovernmental affairs, Representative Kennedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The IGA committee met on July 10th at 9 a.m. Our first guest was Matt Hazard from the Cooperstown Chamber of Commerce. We had budgeted $4,000 for the chamber, and Matt reminded us that that has been a relationship that is many years in the standing, and he came and the asked, so we voted to release the funding to him. Part of the agreement is that they come to the committee or request that the money be released to them. We don't, if the money's in the budget, it doesn't automatically go get a check. There needs to be a resolution by vote to release the money to the organization. So that $4,000 went out by our vote on the 10th. And Karen Sullivan came in, and we were accepting $5,000 for the clean community funds, and we needed to, I think we just transferred it from one line to another. So we are continuing on our being a clean community. Karen also told the committee that we discussed grant administration, and our contract with Toma had expired, and how do we want to go about getting someone to administer our grants. We discussed releasing an RFP for grant administration, as well as other options of maybe piggybacking on with another county. The upshot of that was that once we do get a grant administrator in place, we wanted to invite them to come to the full board and discuss what that job of grant administrator actually looks like for the whole board, to have a better comprehension of what is going on there with grant administration. We discussed the program income, the disbursements, and finalized them, which will appear today in resolution number 218, and we also had the public hearing this morning with regard to that, the distribution of those funds. Much discussion went into that, all good. I feel that the committee did a good job in identifying projects to support. We also discussed writing a letter in support of the tax collection on internet sales, and that also appears in the packet today as resolution number 214. We continued our discussion on county management. We were hoping to have Steve Aquario come and meet with us yesterday, but in light of him not being able to come yesterday, he is now officially invited for September 5th, which is a full board meeting, and he will be coming, and Dave and I did discuss this, that we could invite him for that day to meet with the full board and just have further discussions, come with questions. We're also meeting, our governance meeting is August 28th. Our regular meeting is August 14th at 9 a.m. The 28th meeting is also at 9 a.m. Does anyone have any questions? Keith?
Yes, I do. The $4,000 for the chamber, wasn't it supposed to be used for the kiosk? That people man the kiosk, and nobody's manning the kiosk.
Well, actually, you had shared some emails with me, and I made Mr. Hazard aware of that. And at the time he came, he told me that there was now in place a plan to have people be there between 11 and 3. So I know that at the time when those emails were being exchanged, there was not anyone there, because I went and checked too.
So in other words,
But-
the word got out, he wouldn't get the money unless he put somebody in.
I
There
think
was a lot of complaints.
that could be an interpretation. We did discuss the fact that part of the agreement was to have people there at the kiosk, and he assured me that there were now going to be people at the kiosk
And that
between
people that
11 and
get-
3.
And also, is it so that people can use the kiosk that aren't members of the chamber?
Yes, that also was part of it.
And doesn't this have to come for a resolution
No.
to spend the $4,000? No?
Let me just see if I wrote down anything special about this
Okay.
piece.
If we agreed to what it was used for, it's not being used for.
Well, they say it is
It
now, but
is.
do we have,
It sounded,
do we have the
Seven
pay
days a
slips?
week, there's
The
gonna
pay-
be somebody there, do we have?
Are we
Not
getting,
7
do we have
days.
proof that they're paying them?
We're not paying.
and I just want to note down what,
I'm sorry.
I mean, Keith, full disclosure, I'm on the Cooperstown Chamber Board, I'm the treasurer of the Cooperstown Chamber Board, and there were 5 people in that IGA committee meeting, and I abstained from the vote, but Matt provided a financial overview showing that the $4,000 doesn't even come close to covering the full cost of staffing down there. So the $4,000 is paid for staffing. Is it at the level it has been in previous years? No. And no one's arguing that it is. So does that help clarify? The $4,000
The
goes
problem
to
is,
staffing.
I've had emails that there wasn't gonna be anybody in there.
No, that was never true. I mean, and I understand, I don't know where those emails came from, but, there are 15 people on the board of the Cooperstown Chamber of Commerce. If you ask those 15 people, they all would have countered that understanding. There was always gonna be a level of staffing. It just was never gonna be at the level of previous years. And part of that was what Matt talked about.
Right.
Integrating the touchscreen technology, which has nothing to do with the county money. That's an additional investment that the chamber is making to not only invest in the kiosk, including painting, and even talk with the village of moving that kiosk to make it more accessible. There's a lot of talk about making it better, improving it, and staffing is a component of it. So, but
The touchscreen is fine, but are people gonna be on that touchscreen that aren't a member of the chamber?
the intention is to advertise events that are not chamber members, exactly what we're doing right now, yes. Yep, non-members, yep.
Because the staffing was gonna be volunteer though, not paid.
That was part of the plan, to supplement staffing with volunteers. To try to keep it at the level it had been in the past, but to supplement with volunteers.
Okay. So is there any paid
There are,
staffing now?
yep,
20 hours per week is what I
Yep.
jotted down.
Right, that's what I remember.
And
Yeah.
from
there's
11
paid.
through,
The previous, at least two of the previous staffing were let go, I know that.
Yeah, there's a consolidation, yep. Yep, the chamber has essentially 2 full-time staff members and then 1 kind of 3/4. And so they are spreading the kiosk staffing amongst those personnel. So there's no dedicated part-time summer workers, which is what we had with our previous, the two individuals you're talking about. So now we're using year-round staff to operate the kiosk, but at a reduced presence, yeah.
So you're using people that are already being paid, because you said they were year-round staff, right?
yes.
But I mean, it's still people.
So the $4,000
it's additional
is going to
hours.
supplement somebody's income that's already working for the chamber. Is that
People
what you're
out
saying?
in, yes.
I mean, if they're down there doing the kiosk work, then you're paying for them to do a job that they aren't doing somewhere else. So how is that supplementing?
Well, if they work for the chamber anyway, right?
But well, so did the other 2 individuals. They did more.
I thought they hired outside help to come in during the summer.
They're at far cost, far above $4,000.
I think they cost over 8,000 total.
Oh, yeah, I'm just,
Yeah, it was a partial subsidy.
as long as the money's going where it's supposed to, what it's for.
Well,
And we did have that discussion with Matt. We did talk about staffing the kiosk specifically, and then the other point was that non-chamber members who reside within the county were still had the opportunity to advertise their events.
Right, like Cherry Valley, Outworks, the Kite Festival, and any of those local events.
Any other questions? Yes.
Thank you, Meg. I've just got a couple of questions about the CDBG program income distribution. First, I appreciate the committee's work on this. I know you're a bit under the gun with it. You know, it's a use it or lose it type situation.
Yeah.
Sure, so I appreciate that. The first question is sort of a general one. I'm wondering if you can share any more about how the decisions were made. Were there formal proposals that were presented? Were there any projects that were presented that wouldn't be funded? That sort of thing, and how the group decided on that.
Yes.
Just
Okay, so
first one.
so we'll do part 1.
Okay, sure,
And then we'll
thanks.
go to part 2. So, yes, Karen Sullivan provided us with things that would be, that we hoped for, and so a big list. It was a month-to-month process. Big list of potential projects, and then the IDA also presented some projects that, then we had an education process, and Karen spent much time on the phone with the OCR office. Would this be eligible? Would that be eligible? What are the parameters that we have to follow? So then we had a short list, and then off of the short list, we came up with the list that is before you today. And there was much discussion on, because of the time sensitivity here, we are not going to have time to open up this to a full application for people to apply for. So we tried to stick with projects that were county projects, like the community center for the tiny house project. That was specifically one of the ones that was like within government entity. So that's how we came up with the micro grant. When the money is going to be expended, there will be a full and open application process, but so we bought ourselves some time to open that process out and then administer that as a regular micro enterprise grant. As long as the contracts are written before next March, we'll be able to use the funds. So the other one Is there, now, is that adequate as a response?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So I could go on.
That's
We
good.
spent a lot of time on this.
Great.
So,
Um,
and then part two.
Yeah, the second one was just sort of more specific with the tiny home project. I mean, that's one that I've kind of had ongoing concerns and skepticism about just sort of generally. But I'm wondering specifically, was the community center and on-site training and all that part of the original proposal? And, you know, was that originally planned to be funded, or is this an additional thing?
It's an add-on, parents.
If I could just add, we've set many hours with our volunteer architect, Susan Bruce, who did a lot of site planning, and we were trying to look at the full picture. So not only did the full picture of the site plan include a community center, also a community garden, which we have since put a grant application in to fund the garden project. So the area for on-site case management. And so that was the big picture. Well, when this money became available, OCR said, we said, can we fund this? We got a rough cost. And they said, you just have to do a budget modification, so it simply can be done with funding that's available and the proposed plans. So we have drafted an RFP to get construction engineering drawings and bid specs ready. So that's got to be in place before, not constructed, but at least all the contracts in place. So it was part of the big picture. It was through DSS where they said, this is what we'd like to have on the site. And us working with Susan and Tony Gentile and Andrew Lunetta to come up with a visual and a plan, and Delaware Engineering just finished the utility plans. We had to make a couple adjustments because of their location wasn't exactly where we wanted it. So we made some changes and shifted it over so it's more visible to DSS. So it was the bigger picture of things, and this was an opportunity to include that.
Thank you. I guess my concern is just, there may be a lot of grants available for original, initial startup costs for this project, but I think we need to think long-term about legacy costs and maintenance that go along with this. And as the ball keeps rolling and the project seems to be, increasing in scope, I just worry about those continuing costs increasing as well.
Very good. Gary?
Just a quick response to that. Remember, once the project is done and we start housing people who are homeless, we save $50 a night for every person in there ongoing every day. So that's not a revenue, but it's a reduction in expenses that's very significant.
May I just also, to just add to the whole big picture of things, we received the Clean Communities grant funding, and we have to come up with project ideas, and part of that is to offset the utility cost of the tiny homes with a remote solar net metering program on the site that would generate electricity into the grid, and we would offset that project. So we have that funding available that we're working with Evolution Solar right now to get estimates. We have to present those plans and ideas to NYSERDA for them to approve it, but that would offset some of the utility cost as well. And again, the bigger picture is to bring these, and I'm not the DSS specialist, but to bring these people back into a working, skilled labor environment. So whether it's using these people as we do in the meadows to do job sites on site, as we're doing now, to try to give them job skills, that's the whole picture.
On that line there, I was gonna bring it up later, but in that same grant is a $50,000 for Town of Maryland feasibility study. I thought the IDA at Otsego now spent lots of money on that site prior to see if it was feasible to do just that. It seems on the surface that we may be looking for someone that will give us an answer that we want instead of the one that is truthful. I don't understand why we're spending more money on something that we seem to have abandoned 2 years ago.
I'll defer to Jody.
Jody's here.
Yeah, since he's here, we
Yeah.
can hear from Jody.
The IDA technically, the Otsego now did not actually spend any money on the study itself. There was a potential grant that was being looked at to help us, that had to be matched by our agency. When I inherited this project roughly 7, 8 months ago, I was responsible for saying we're not going ahead with this study at this point in time. It didn't have to do with the merits of that site. It had to do with my agency for the last 4 years has been spending more money than we took in, quite a bit more money. And I came in and immediately tried to streamline revenue loss. So that project was at that time canceled. The rail yard project, we renegotiated an engineering contract to cut that project down by another $70,000 based on previous work that was already done by another engineering firm. So we started doing a lot of cost-cutting measures, and that was one of the projects that we just could not afford $100,000 to do another study. When this money came up, we said we'll relook at that issue, but it's not. The study is more of an engineering. Can we get access to that site, or are there other sites along that corridor that would make a better industrial site park? We're using that money as a match to an Empire State Development grant for additional $50,000 to make it a $100,000 study. It may be the original site, it may be looking at other sites, but it's really, we didn't really do a detailed investigation yet on that site or any other sites along the 88 corridor.
So it was a financial decision previously to put it on the back burner, not that
Yes.
we were complete, and it was always.
That's correct. That was my decision. So I take
So
responsibility.
can I ask you then, because the way it's worded, it looks like $50,000, but the study is only going to be done on Skinny site. And I think, this is county money that we're spending. It should be all along. We have a lot of road frontage along I-88. There's other properties that were offered to the IDA a couple of years ago. One in my town, I would request, before I could support it, I would request that those communities be included in the study.
And I don't necessarily see anything wrong with expanding that scope. So I think we could include the engineering firm to identify maybe 2 or 3 sites along the 88 corridor that could be potential sites, and then to do detailed engineering. And the reason I'm saying that is that when I first got here, again, I had interviewed one engineering firm that we specifically talked about that Maryland site, and they said they probably can do an engineering study just on the access issues, which really has us concerned for about $20,000 to $5,000. So I think there'd be more than adequate money to look at multiple sites and multiple engineering issues.
And while you're up there, if I could just ask some of the, I heard Meg say that they looked at different projects and economic ideas for companies. And in the past, we've had companies apply for some of these grants that have been denied. I'm not a big study person, to be honest with you. I'd rather see the money go into businesses, that are here, that we can help to sustain them. I know the
And to be
Butterfly
honest,
Museum being one of them.
we did submit to the IGA committee a list of a couple of businesses that we thought we could provide direct financial assistance to for business expansion. It was kind of decided by the committee that since we didn't open up the process to everybody and ask for requests for proposals, that it would be unfair to say that business we're going to give $60,000 to, that business we're going to give $100,000. So we kind of dropped all the IDA projects that were business related because we didn't go out with an RFP.
So it's
I
never
know
going to
that's
give
not
it to
great.
ourselves and.
But at least the two of the projects, Andela Products and Ruby Lakes Glass, we did a CFA application that was submitted on their behalf last week.
So was any outreach done either by the IDA or the committee to companies that we had turned down for money? And some of those that you recommended earlier on in this process when we realized we had this money, to see if anything changed that would have made it palatable to give them the money?
We didn't reach out to specific individuals that had asked. We're proposing a microenterprise. So we're doing a open program of a general microenterprise like we have before, and then they'll apply for that. Given the time restraints and what was necessary, we looked at countywide, focused on countywide projects. And from that, actually, we won't be spending all of the money that we have. So, we just needed to do something and come up with ideas, and we spent a lot of time with Jody, because I know Jody's talking to probably more people than we are. And so we came up with a list. We did not call individual companies and ask them to submit applications. That wasn't the plan. It was basically have a micro enterprise, have funding for the tiny homes, because that's easily administered and brought into an existing program. I don't know if there's anything else anybody wants to ask. We need to do something with this money, or it's going to be taken back.
Right, Karen had called me, actually emailed me and called me the day before the first IGA meeting and asked me if I had a list of projects that we could add to her list. So we really didn't go out and solicit anything. We just gave them a list of all the projects that we were working on that, based on my experience with small cities, community development grant funding, we thought would be eligible. And when it got to the individual businesses that I'm currently working with, it was decided that we shouldn't look at those businesses because
You couldn't look at all businesses.
there's a lot of
You couldn't
businesses out
open
there
it up
that
in
maybe
time.
could use help.
I just had something like, if you're gonna do like a large scale solicitation of all businesses, you usually have to, lay the groundwork even 1 year in advance of the actual solicitation going out to make it fair, evaluate processes. You had like a month and a half, 2 months to get this one done. I said there's no possible way it would have been, feasible to get that kind of thing done. And then like if you had, for CDBG, there's particular restraints on who you can allocate money to. So there, like for LMI individuals and LMI businesses as well. Is that correct?
And then I would just add that in addition to our concerns about making it a fair, open, and transparent process, not having enough time to do that, we also had big concerns about not having enough time to properly vet the applications that came in, given that we haven't always been successful as a county in the past at making guesses about what's going to work out and what doesn't.
Well, and then it's not just us though too, because this whole program was audited, that's why they're taking back the money, because it hasn't been all that successful, getting the money back, so, or having the businesses be successful. So.
There you go. So, it's a long, those kind of things are much longer term, require very careful planning.
Thank you, Jody. Meg?
Any other questions?
You got beat up, didn't you?
I'm used to it.
Human Services.
I think during admin, Toba,
Oh.
or would it,
Go ahead.
Toba is here from the land bank, and he wanted to have some commentary, some interaction with the board, and I thought during the admin time would probably be more appropriate than during the IGA committee. Yeah, so, okay.
Human Services, Representative Coon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I won't be taking any questions. You can talk to my attorney. Again, won't be going into a lot of detail. Obviously, we did lots of resolutions. We approved contracts, talked personnel. Fiscal health is good. Some details, some interesting things that came up during the meeting. The DSS is still trying to develop some, I guess what we call cellular technology for their caseworkers who are out in the field so much, often very far away from any place where they can sit down and write their reports. They have lots and lots of reports to submit. So we're talking about 20 smartphones that will be equipped with technology for them to enter the information they need right away and actually send it right off. Also, something called a MiFi, which is boxes that are portable to allow internet access in the field by creating hotspots. So I assume 2 or 3 people, or maybe two partners going out to do something in the field might be able to both access the internet and provide their reports. So more of that is coming. There are record retention issues. There's another county that's involved in a lawsuit regarding record retention, and so records are now being retained, and none of them are being disposed of until that's over. We have some guidance there. The suggestion and the discussion we had is that the county needs a records retention plan in general. That's a little better than piles and piles of boxes of papers in the old jail cells across the way. And so that's something that perhaps we might want to think about and talk about as time goes on. Building security at the Meadows. You may know that we have a company that has been providing security at the door. The gentleman who you meet at the door of the Meadows is part of that service. And we did an RFP for that, and the company that provides us now didn't feel like putting in an RFP. Another company did, and they were much more expensive, and they just didn't seem to fit the mold. So we're now working our way through how to deal with this, working with Andrew Trombley to make sure that we'd much rather maintain the company that we have. And so that's been a lot longer than it seemed that it should be, but it's still going on. Working on the long process, as you can imagine, it's a long process to contract for preventive services, something that we're doing in order to work on our turnover problem, but as you can imagine, that's just readjusting the department and setting up that RFP and contract is a long job. The state is continuing to take over our less complex Medicaid cases. Another 94 cases are headed to the state. And working, as many of us heard this morning when we talked with Dan Naughton, Raise the Age has really become something that is a steep learning curve on that. October 1st is the first is the time when the age of responsibility will move from 16 to 17, and then the following year, October 1st, it will be from 17 to 18. And there are all sorts of complexities there, and of course, the complexities of how the state will support us for the extra added cost to that, which is never simple. Next month, of course, as most of the committees and departments will be doing, we'll be working on the budget. DSS's budget is, I think, the largest in the county in terms of departments, and I think that if you are interested in that process and going into the details of that, we'll be meeting on August 7th at 1:30 in the third floor conference room upstairs, and you're all invited.
Questions? Hearing none, we'll move on to public safety, legal affairs, Representative Frazier.
Thank you, Chairman. We met on July 19th. We had public defender in. We discussed our implementation of TAPA and the money and resources that are coming in. Ellen and Bruce, Coleman and Bruce have worked for quite a long time on this. We discussed the coverage for after-hour arraignments and our 18B attorneys. We reclassified some jail nurse positions for the sheriff. We had a long conversation with Cooperstown Medical Transport and their representatives. Four came to discuss direct dispatch, having our 911 center directly dispatch their ambulances instead of going to their dispatch center and having them dispatch. It slows things down. That is still in process. They're objecting somewhat. I understand they did meet with Shenango County since our meeting, and Shenango County says they are not changing their process, that CMT wants to provide ambulance service in Shenango County. Shenango County will be dispatching them. That's the stand Shenango County's taken. That should probably be ours. We provide a service that minutes matter, and having it go through another step doesn't seem on the face to make any sense. We allowed Tony Gentile to fund and fill in the clerk's position. We had several purchases for emergency service in our cleaner. We spoke about our preparations and the preparations going on for the Hall of Fame induction weekend. That seemed to go off very smooth. Every year they try new things in anticipation of problems. There weren't any this year. They will be adding more and more for the next couple of years. The classes are going to be, the expectation of the visitors is going to be increasing substantially. We also allowed in the purchase of a replacement truck for the hazmat responses from Homeland Security. This is one that we are not leasing. We cannot lease those vehicles and use the grant money for a lease. So we are purchasing those outright. The Magistrates Association is represented by Donna Yurden. She discussed our centralized arraignment, the CAP and CAFA. We asked her if she had enhancements to our plan to forward them to the committee. We'll look at them, take them into consideration. We also allowed her, we approved that she apply for through the state magistrates JCAP to submit an application for a grant. Rob O'Brien came in, talked to us about his preparations for 911. This year, Rob, he had half of the staff on duty for 911 was in the backup center and half was in the regular center. If something happened in either one, they were already up and running on both. So there were no problems, but just the things they do every year, change things up, try to make enhancements. They aren't sitting on their hands. We met this morning. Interview a candidate for our position of probation director 2. We're going to have a late resolution today to approve. I ask for your support. We meet again on August 24th at noon.
Any questions?
Just further to the PSLA committee and the CAFA plan, I sent out a notice to all of you. We are going to have a stakeholders meeting this afternoon at 3 p.m. down at the training room at the Meadows. This will be an issue that's going to come up in all your towns, probably with the town and village justices. So if you want to come in here firsthand, and of course we will keep you updated. Thanks.
I'm sorry, what was the date on that?
Today at 3.
Just a quick Public Works representative over there. Do you have a meeting date set?
I always forget that, don't I? Yes, Tuesday, August 7th at, I think we said 1 p.m., right? Yeah, 1 p.m. on Tuesday. Yep.
Location?
Second floor. Oh, that's right, we're at Highway, that's right, because we have the, yes, so we'll be at the Highway building because we have negotiations going on the second floor. Thank you.
Is that the same time of day as Human Services?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
And you'll be Skyping into your meeting.
Yeah, you got conflict with that?
Yeah, I have human services.
How does does Monday the 13th look? I hate to do it, I know.
We have health
Yeah, we can do this, next afternoon, maybe.
Monday the 13th,
Yeah. In the meantime, we'll work to Health and Ed, Representative Scanlon.
The committee met on July 9th, and Sue met, reported to us that the Mental Health Association in Ulster County successfully transitioned folks to Parsons Children and Family Services July 2nd, so that process is complete. New York State Office of Mental Health issues some guidelines about county contracts using OMH funds. It's not necessary to bid on that. There's a word missing here, but annually. So they're trying to move towards multi-year contracts. Hopefully our goal would be to move towards a 3-year agreement or agreements moving forward. Let's see. Talked about some changes to the 2019 budget with Susan Matt. One of these things was talking about including $60,000 to the criminal actions line. We used to have funding on that line. It hasn't in recent years, but we ended up having to use funds for that. And just an update on that ongoing criminal action proceeding. We have been paying to house somebody. It looks like the criminal proceeding is moving forward, so they'll move into the criminal justice system, so we'll no longer be accruing expenses there for this year at least. We again talked about the health transformation grant, which I still believe we have not heard anything on yet. We talked a bit about the 242 Main Street Task Force and their plans and their progress. We talked a bit about our continuing discussion about how the coroners function, and we're requesting some updates on their workload so far this year, who has gotten calls, how many have they gotten, how many they responded to. And I have heard back from 2 of the 3 coroners. Hopefully I'll hear from the last one. We'll talk about that this month. We heard from Tammy McDonald. Believe it or not, it's already time to think about winter heating, winter season. So we did move to approve a temporary heat examiner position, not to exceed $13,500, as well as a temporary part-time senior aging services aide position, also associated with the heat season. I think that was about it. We actually had a pretty quick meeting. Any questions? Yeah.
What's the 242 task force? What are they supposed to be doing? Well, my other question isn't Public Works supposed to be on this task force too, or what's going on there?
Well, a couple meetings ago, Dave set up the 242 task force, being myself and Liz, Shannon, myself. I'm like the common denominator between Health and Ed and Public Works, being on both committees. The 242 task force was established to basically answer the question of, do we move or not move? What are the implications of moving? What is the value of the building at 242 as an asset to the county? Which departments would like to be located there? If a move were to take place, how would we maintain an adequate amount of services? Where would we move? My understanding coming onto the board last year, or being elected last year, was that an alternate location had been nearly identified, that the building, that the city was asked to find a buyer. So we realized quickly that all the pieces were not in place to answer the question, to prepare us up to want to move or not. So basically, we're just trying to get all of our ducks in a row.
So you're the only 2 on the task force, or?
That's correct, and then we plan on expanding the task force once we, narrow down our scope of work and questions that we need to ask. So the next
Kind of going backward, wouldn't you get people on the task force that you think should be there now instead of going? You get it all set up, then you're gonna have to go all over it again.
Well, sure.
If the task force has a quorum on it, then it no longer becomes a task force, it becomes a committee.
It becomes a committee, and not only that, if you have if you don't identify a scope of work prior to kind of inviting other members, you can easily get derailed or be kind of paralyzed by paralysis by analysis, being paralyzed by answering multiple questions as they come up. If we identify a scope and identify what the exact question we're looking at and prioritize actions. We feel that the task force can be much more productive. The next step that we would like to do as a task force is meet with Mayor Herzig to identify what the city's plans are with Westcott and then establish a better line of communication moving forward on that issue.
Okay, there's also a lot of history that we're not that familiar with, and even a lot of the members of the board haven't been here that long, about, you know, the interaction with Len and the mayor and the DRI task force, and the whole thing about the renovations to 242. So we're trying to like just build a kind of a groundwork of information first.
He's been around since that time and know about the renovations. He probably
Well, I mean,
would
we
have
should talk to
to
Keith.
Yeah.
It's up to you. You can join us.
But you have
Well, I
insight
mean-
to it.
I mean, Pete set up a committee for public works to talk about 242, so, you know, I mean, I was just curious where the task force was fitting in with public works was too. But
Sure, well, you know, if we immediately identify an agenda item, we'd have to put it on the agenda for Public Works. You know, it'd be important to have, you know, maybe break it up into 2 meetings just because of the amount of stuff that we have to tackle with highway too, so.
Mental Health Association of Ulster County, did they get entirely absorbed into Parsons, or are those just the services we're using?
That's a good question. As far as I know, it's just the services, but I'm not positive, so I'll follow up with that question.
Anything else?
Oh, sorry, we're meeting August 13th, Monday at 9 a.m.
Thank you. SWAC Representative McCarty.
thank you, Mr. Bliss. A lot of the stuff we've gone over, we discussed consolidation of 5 ag districts into 1. And also, there's an open enrollment for, in January, Tammy Harris went over and presented all that. Jordan Clements was in, gave a bunch of reports, listed about the stream. Just a couple reminders, the tour for the forest parcels is scheduled for Saturday, August 18th, if anyone's going, and the farm tours are scheduled for Friday, October 12th. Karen went over the solid waste reports. In June, we had 3,638 tons, and we ended up with a credit from Casellas of $8,800. To date, the e-waste has cost us $14,316. We got 232 mattresses shipped, and recyclables for June were $447 tons collected at a cost, an average of $104, almost $105 a ton, and that includes the revenue that was collected from the commercial hauler, which is, June was the first month that started. We got an outstanding bill from Sierra for recycling. We don't have a contract with them, and we'd have to go out for an RFP, so Casella's offered to pay that bill, and we do have a contract with Casella, and we will pay Casella. I think that's the way it works, right? If I mess up, holler at me.
Okay.
We discussed about raising public awareness of regarding collecting and cleaning material and recyclables, because a lot of the recyclables are contaminated and it's hard to get rid of them. It was also discussed the other day in strategic planning that Karen is getting kind of overwhelmed with all this, and that maybe it's the time that we should start thinking about raising the user fee a little bit and hire a full-time person to do the solid waste and other things. She's got a lot on her plate, and it's just very time-consuming for her, and it's something that where this person could be used to go out and educate people on and doing what they're supposed to do. We We got a quote for repairs, a wall down to Oneana transfer station. Boarding, welding for $4,000, we approved that. OCCA was requested a letter of endorsement for the county to support consolidated funding application for trail building and improvement, we approved that. And we also passed out an RF, or a draft for a proposal to go out for solid waste and recycling management for this next, hopefully, 5 years. And review over the month, and we'll look at that next month. And we meet again on August 20th at 9 a.m. Any questions?
On the forest tour, what time is that, and are we supposed to meet someplace, or what are the?
Well, that's something you're gonna have to ask Jordan.
Is that a dozen dads for us?
Are you inviting lunch?
Where's that? Are we all gonna just drive around, or is there like a bus picking us up or something?
No, we're gonna meet there. I
The
think it's gonna
farm
be-
tours has the bus.
Oh,
The farm
okay.
tour does not have a bus.
You know where Pink Street is?
It's only about 3 miles from here.
Oh, okay.
All depends which way you go. If you go Middlefield, it's longer.
Wasn't that always true of anything?
All right, I'll talk to Jordan there. Maybe he'll probably send us something. He's thinking about us coming
I'll
on.
make sure he does.
Yeah, okay, that'd be good, yeah.
'Cause
Well,
we
I remember
have-
have everybody meet at the mountain.
Oh, our SWEC meeting is
Well,
on
that's
the
kind of what I
20th.
was wondering, yeah. I mean,
I'll see him on the 16th.
Because the GPS man.
I just wondered the RFP for the waste management that Casella has right now, when's that RFP coming back in? And so you're.
We haven't sent it out yet.
You haven't sent it out yet, okay,
We're working on it right now.
okay,
The draft, it was a draft she gave.
okay, that you reviewed. And just a second thing, I already talked to Karen about this, but the road at NTS, which the county doesn't own, it's the Clark Foundation owns it. There's a significant issue with like a giant pothole on one side of it that it's getting to be a real hazard. So I think Karen called Bob Sutherland, who's with the Clark Foundation, or the greenhouses, but I just wanted to make sure we don't lose track of that, because every time I go up there, people are bringing it up all the time. So and we don't own the road, but it is a big hole, and it's on the, if you're driving in, it's on the left-hand side, and
Well, if we're using the road, shouldn't we fix it?
I'm not sure. Karen's gonna talk to Bob about
I
it.
talked with, last week was induction, so he had no
Yeah,
time to
he
give
couldn't
to
talk
me, but
about
he
it.
said he'd get back to me. We went up, took pictures of it, so we'll get together with him and figure it out.
Who asked Mr.
I
Mason?
think we're responsible
Yeah,
for
coal
maintenance.
patch
Yeah.
in it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
we-
just, it's a pressing issue, I think. Somebody even said their car was damaged, not that they're coming to the county, but, I think it's only gonna be a growing issue as time goes. Especially winter.
I'll bring it up to Bill.
Just a phone call, you should be able to look.
Yeah.
Take some coal patch up.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you, Representative McCarty. Administration, Representative.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So most of the things that we talked about at the administration committee meeting, we have actually already discussed through the committee reports. I will build out just a little bit on a couple of things, and then we will have a conversation with Tobel Morawski, who is here today from the Land Bank, and will be available to increase your understanding of the function and mission of the Land Bank, as well as any questions you might have and steps that we're taking as a county to participate. So with regard to the letter of support, Leslie Rossetti from OCCA and Jordan Clements worked together on that application for the CFA, and we did pass, the SWEC committee approved, and we also approved a letter of support for the work that they're doing on 3 different projects, which will link up trails between county properties and properties that belong to other municipalities, including the state. So the Basswood Pond in Edmiston, Glimmerglass Swamp in the town of Otsego, I believe, and the Bilderbeck county forest, which is in the town of Hardwick. They also did build support within each of those municipalities as well, but they needed to have the county as the overarching participant provide support as well. So we did that. That's resolution number 211, which I actually did pull because the build-it-back is listed as a state property, but it actually is a county property. Resolution 209 addresses the code enforcement officer to create fund and fill for the clerk position. Resolution number 218 is the planning, the program income, which I believe will be pulled to be modified in a couple of different ways. We approved Art's vehicle from Emergency Services that Ed spoke to you already about today. The hazmat response truck purchased with Homeland Security funds. Resolution 212, it addresses the nursing change in positions, abolished 2, created 2, in hopes to be able to fill the positions and have people working in the scope of the work with an adequate education. That's at resolution 212. We were happy to reappoint Penny Gentile as personnel director, resolution number 207. We also created, fund, and filled a junior accountant position in the treasurer's office, resolution number 215. That's part of Alan's project towards kind of reorganizing the treasurer's office and making it function more, would you say, efficiently? Okay. So we were in support of that. Also within the treasurer's office, resolution number 216, and this one kind of spills over into the budget report, but we did have an intern working in the treasurer's office this summer, and that resolution provides a stipend for that intern of $2,500 not to exceed. The intern was very helpful in creating spreadsheets that actually compare each department year to year and also the department within each budget year. So these are incredibly complex, lots of numbers, lots of good data to work with as we go into the budget season. So well earned $2,500 for that intern. Resolution number 208, Hank Schecker, who is here with us just now, has also announced his retirement, and we reappointed him so that he will retire, spend one day out of service, and then come back in to be reappointed. He was reappointed as the Director of Real Property and will now be paid, but also will be retired. So we've done this with other directors. I'm drawing a blank on who we recently did this with. But anyway, it was approved by personnel, and we went with the recommendation, and Hank is going to be still coming to work every day and planning his successor, right? So anyway, resolution 217, budget transfers, and then resolution number 214 is the support of the internet sales tax collection, which we do want to make a friendly amendment to that when the time comes. So our next meeting is August 27th at 1 p.m. Does anyone have any questions?
Just in addition to that, August 27th meeting, just prior to that, there'll be a public hearing on countywide shared services.
Oh, okay. And I don't want to end my turn here without having told to come stand up and be recognized for his land bank work and be available for any questions. Andrew?
I not a question about the recent admin action, but just a follow-up from the public comment. I just wondered if, and I forgot to bring this up under SWEC, so I don't know if it's SWEC or admin, but the XNG resolution, is there any particular committee that might go to for further discussion?
I would think SWEC.
Okay.
Or public safety? Public safety.
Or both.
Maybe both.
Okay, I just wanted to ask.
Okay, So, we have,
Just Kathy.
oh, Kathy, yeah.
On the treasurer's junior accountant position being
Yeah.
created, is another one being abolished? And if not, there says there's money in the budget for it, so
Yes, there is money in the budget from an unfilled position. And Alan, if you could speak to the abolish part of it?
Yep, and a position will be unfunded for the 2019 budget going forward.
thank you.
So we're not building up funded positions. Okay, so, Olga.
Hi,
Hi.
just wanted to give everyone a quick update, and, you know, it's been 2 years, I think, since we've been formed and approved, we're staffed up. We've been taking on properties in the county, as you know, thank you very much for the property in Richfield. We are working on our next round of funding. We have properties we've been working on with Cherry Valley, the city of Oneonta, and other places that we're rehabbing and looking to do demos. The reason I stopped in today in part was because of the foreclosure, the upcoming tax auction. There were 3 properties in the city of Oneonta that the city wanted us to work on for them, 2 rehabs and 1 demo. And then there's one in the village of Cherry Valley that they wanted us to rehab for them, in addition to 8 Lancaster, which is a fire I'm sure you're all familiar with. We're going to be taking the rest of that down. The owners passed away in the fire, so there's no estate to deal with it. But so Meg asked me to be here to answer any questions and discussion, anything anybody has.
I have
Yeah, sure.
the time frame, like you took the property in Richfield, or we gave it to you,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yep.
When does the process, will they start seeing something happen to that property?
We've already done the scope of work for the project. And this month we're doing the hazmat assessments. All the properties we do, we have to test for asbestos, lead, and other contaminants, check the site for any leaks, spills, things like that. But then in September, we hope to be started, and all our projects we're committed to completing within 1 year or less. So to have it back out in the market and bringing in tax revenue within, at most, 1 year, but I hope it's going to be significantly shorter than that.
That's a big place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you happen to know the addresses of the properties in the city?
I don't, but Ellen may.
We have one of the books downstairs,
Okay,
that'll list everything.
Give me a second, I can go get the brochure.
Okay, but let me just make a comment too, because one of them is probably 20 Cherry Street. It's a, I mean,
Yeah,
that's,
that sounds.
is that the
yeah,
demo one?
I believe so.
Well, okay, so that's in my district, and there's another property across the street there that there was arson, and then they demoed that.
Yep.
And that whole area is very adjacent to Hartwick College. And I had a lot of comments when I was campaigning down there. I haven't spoken to the city, to either the mayor or Judy Pangman, but what I told the residents at that time was, we have a land bank, maybe we can fix this. But what happened was, when they built a new building across the street after the arson, in the city of Oneonta, you can have a single family, you can have 3 unrelated people in it. So they told them, whoever it was that did this rebuilding project, that they're gonna have family there. Well, they still have college kids. And the whole neighborhood is just getting so more college oriented and so really awful. Especially since that one that's vacant, the number 20, Cherry is there. And it's just really kind of destroying the family aspect of the neighborhood. So my question is, if we rehab this house, is there any, I mean, it's just something to think about. How can we ensure that there's not gonna be a bunch of college kids living in it?
Well, we have some limitations on our funding, that we
Okay.
are focused on, owner-occupied, single-family.
Okay,
That is a requirement of our funding.
okay, good.
But also, I believe that is a demo, and I believe that we're not looking to redevelop it into another
So it would just remain vacant then?
No, we would do like a side lot or a park or a pocket park or something like that.
Okay,
We're not looking to, part of the problem that we see across the region is oversupply in some of these places.
yeah,
And so tightening it up, cleaning it up, and we do look at target areas. So we've identified neighborhoods in the city with the city that we're looking to do multiple projects. So this would be the first where, you know, that area definitely needs a lot of help.
Yeah,
So we would be looking to do other projects and get, you know, say, owner occupied and.
okay,
you
that
know,
would be, yeah, so
Yeah.
that's the whole thing, especially for the city of Oneonta, owner occupied would be a really
Yes.
great thing that you could help us with, yeah. Thank you.
Yes, one of the properties that we discussed recently is a property where the county is not in the process of foreclosing. So I just wanted to clarify with you that you will accept a direct transfer from the legal owner of a property straight to the land bank, and they don't have to like go through the
Yeah.
in-run procedure?
Yep,
Okay.
yeah, and we also, we've been working with Chase Bank, Wells Fargo, Bank of America to accept bank foreclosures. There's also a new settlement that I think was just announced last week with the National Housing Trust, where a lot of these upstate properties that are held by these REO companies, if you're familiar with it, these real estate owned, foreclosed, they're trying to, you know, just make a few bucks. They have to by law now transfer some of those to land banks to get them out of this merry-go-round of speculators. So we'll hopefully be getting more properties that way too.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And I just, so the property in Cherry Valley is the one, there was a fire, is that?
There's two, yeah, I believe 8 Lancaster was the fire and 20 Lancaster is the foreclosed property.
So the 8 Lancaster fire, what is the land bank's plan?
We're looking to take it down, clean, well, what's left of it, clean it up, and probably do a pocket park, you know, on the site.
We just wanted to though say that with that property, the problem right now is that there's, the county is not in the process of foreclosing, so we don't have any way of taking title. So in cooperation with the mayor and the land bank and me, we're trying to come up, and the treasurer, we're trying to come up with a way to, you know, get that property transferred out to the land bank. That's a little more difficult and
Yeah.
a different process.
Yeah, because the family is, not, they don't have the resources to deal with it. And we've also involved NICOM, the New York Conference of Mayors. And so Wade Beltramo, if you're familiar, he's been helping us see if we can figure out some other options for that.
Yeah, and we have an option that we could use in the county as long as we get the cooperation of the family or the non-cooperation.
Okay.
So somebody's paid the taxes on that piece of property for the last 3, since it burned?
Yes.
So the county, so it's not up for foreclosure? Oh.
No. So, but the problem is it'd have to sit there for 2 years until we could foreclose. So right now, the legal ownership of the property is in the estate of the, you know, last owner who died, and we can deal with that, but I've been in communication with the mayor of the village and their attorney about how that needs to happen. So they're doing some, you know, research on the family, because we have to give them an opportunity to get involved, which they probably won't be, but you still have to do that legally.
Pocket parks, could you just explain to me who has ownership of those, and, you know, they're taken off the tax rolls? When some of the stuff goes to the land bank, we expect it to come back on, but.
Sure.
So
Of course.
explain it.
What we try to do, the first process would be to sell it to one of the neighbors, you know, and put it out, a public, you know, a notice, you know, to put it up for sale. But if we can't do that, then, you know, in the meantime, we're also talking with the municipality in Cherry Valley's case to see if they would be willing to accept it. And ideally, we want to get it, our mission is to get them back on the tax roll. But in those cases, especially with this situation where there's a fire and it's, you know, there's no interest from the family as far as we can tell, you know, we go through that process of trying to sell it first, but at least in the meantime, we want it to look good. So even if it is gonna go through sale, let's say, you know, it takes, you know, 8 months or whatever, we're gonna put, you know, plantings on it and, you know, make it so it's not an eyesore, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you put this cleared and clean property on sale. If someone wants to buy it to build another house there, is that a direction you go in?
Well, that would go to codes. A lot of these lots, when they were built, they might not be enough frontage, you know, so really side lots, we think, in a lot of these cases is ideal, but they could possibly get a variance, with the local codes.
Thinking of Cherry Street.
Yeah, but see, that's what I think what happened before. The house burned down, they tore it down, and then, somebody else built something else there, and they say that, as long as the land bank keeps control of it, then you can impose your,
And that's part of,
limitations.
yeah,
But
that's,
once somebody else buys it, then it's up for grabs.
yeah, that's part of, when we do our sales, we have a commitment with our funding, with the state AG's office and our funding source. For 5 to 20 years, we have to make sure that that site is maintained to our standards, which would be, having, owner occupied ideally, having codes up to date so that it doesn't go back into one of these situations where it's run down, a speculator is just taking all the money and the value out of it, that type of thing. So it would be definitely kept up.
Is it possible for you to put a deed restriction or anything?
Oh, absolutely, yes. And all properties that we sell as rehabs would be, definitely, they would have a 1-year covenant that we could claw back the property if they don't do what they, and our scopes require they get everything up to code. They have to meet all the standards of the local municipality, and if they don't meet those requirements, then we can claw back the property.
How many of the rehabs have you done?
We have right now 11 in process across the region.
Where are they?
The bulk of them right now are in Herkimer County. They transferred 7 properties in the first month of the land bank getting up and going. And then we have 2 in Montgomery County, we have 2 in Utica, so we have a pretty good spread.
There's none in Otsego.
Just the Richfield Springs property, but that's, literally that came over last month. We'd like more of them, definitely. Yeah.
So
Success breeds.
Yeah,
You gotta
absolutely.
see something happen.
Absolutely.
Haven't seen anything happen
Yeah.
in 2 years.
Well, absolutely, but
So-
not for lack of trying. We've definitely been, trying to acquire properties, so.
So would it be, is it like a municipality's responsibility to reach out to you saying we have like 6 properties that we'd like to look at?
Yes, yeah.
So it's a matter of also outreach too, so I think
Yes.
the way we can partner
We-
better is by,
We only go where we're wanted, and so Richfield has been very active in engaging us, and they brought that property to our attention. Cherry Valley has also been very active. And the city of Oneonta, we've been looking for REO properties to acquire. But what happens oftentimes, we've had several of these properties where they might sell 2 or 3 times in the span of 2 or 3 months. And it just goes from one bank to another bank to another bank. So we start negotiating with one, they transferred it to some other REO entity. It's really a moving target, but we are, we're willing to, make the investment to get them.
Good, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to special committees, negotiations, Representative Fraser.
The corrections unit, we met, last week, a half ago. The mediator, we spent a full day here, I think we're a lot closer. Both sides gave some. We are scheduled on the 7th for our second round of mediation.
Questions? Performance review and goal setting.
Thank you.
We met on July 5th. We reviewed the RFP responses. We had sent out an RFP for our consultants to provide training to our department heads regarding goal setting. We went through that process of looking at the responses and chose one, amount not to exceed $3,200. We discussed and came to a conclusion at that point anyway on the structure that we would recommend for the M&C salary structure. Department heads 1.5% a year raise plus an additional 1.5 merit-based based on the outcome of their performance evaluations. And for non-department heads to mirror the CSEA structure. talked about, and part of that package, increasing contribution for health insurance. We, we talked about a lot of options, ended up with a 2%, 1% raise in the first 3 years in the individual's contribution to their health insurance, which would bring M&C from 5% to 10%. After 3 years, having talked to everybody a number of times about this, there really has been very little discussion about lots of other creative ways to create the salary structure. However, there has been lots of conversation about different ways to address the contribution for the health insurance, so that certainly is ongoing. I went to both admin and budget committees and pretty much said that given the fact that admin is the committees that is responsible for wages and salaries, that we're pretty much giving them that recommendation and asking admin to move from there, because as a committee, we can't make those decisions and put them into place. And so that's where that is now. The salary study that you saw a little bit about in May and have heard about is available. It's lots and lots and lots of data pages of it, but I've put together a summary which I have available. We'll talk about today, but I have that if you're interested. And that's about it. We're going to meet right after this meeting, just because we haven't been here long enough. But I hope it will be a short meeting, because really we're pretty much done with the salary structure that we have been talking about all year, and we're just going to move on with the consultant for the goal setting at this point.
Any questions?
Just want to thank Gary for pushing that through the salary study.
Well, I think, thank you, I appreciate that, and Penny and her crew really deserve a lot of working behind the scenes.
Whoever was involved.
Yes, yeah. And the committee spent a long time, really thoughtful discussion about this.
Any other questions?
Work in progress committee. I attended Public Works when they met, and we basically were creating these committee work plans which tie together the strategic plan, the Otsego County's strategic prioritization plan, and gets a little bit more into more details that I guess because that plan's a little dated, it's a little broad, so we're getting a little bit more kind of focus on the implementation. So Public Works, we refined building services and highway department, and that I think is something I'll forward out to everybody, but I think we feel like that's pretty much finalized, other than maybe some of the mission statement components, which you know, like we're hoping that each department would take a look at the mission and vision aspects. We don't have vision statements for any of our departments, so that's kind of a possibility that we're looking to try to capture and see if department heads would you know, take a shot at putting something together. And then at the actual meeting we had, we met with Keith, who's on the committee, but chairs Sweck and Karen, and discussed the priorities for Sweck itself, and that draft will be available shortly. And again, it's you know, a solid waste and environmental concerns committee work plan that integrates the strategic planning components and the priorities that Karen and Sweck are working on right now. And any of these are priorities that are, you know, it's not like it's a 1 year. I mean, some of these things obviously are multi-year, but so Sweck is gonna review that draft and talk more about mission and vision, I think at their upcoming meeting here in August. And I know Kathy and Ed weren't able to attend the recent meeting, but we're hoping to meet on September 4th, So hopefully that works for Ed and Kathy. Danny, Keith, and I confirmed, and we're hoping to meet with Gary as Chair of Human Services and Eve to have the same exact discussion, kind of follow the same process that we just, are finalizing with Public Works, that we're in process with SWEC, and get going with Human Services. So we're going to continue to work through all the committees, and as I said before, this is, and as we talked about at strategic planning, and even at IGA yesterday, this will really give us, something, a roadmap, a framework for each of our committees, and we're going to integrate it into our strategic plan as kind of appendices, and it really will help with our committees in general, in case, as we all know, election year next year, chances are the board will change, the committees will change, and this will provide some kind of consistency and help us kind of have something in place, especially for new board members coming on. So
What time did you say before?
9 o'clock.
Okay.
Any other questions? Any other special reports?
We did have a budget meeting,
Yes.
yeah, and we did, just to know, the budget tool is still open. And I did discuss the work that was created by the intern, which I do think is gonna be very helpful as we go into getting into the nitty-gritty of this year's budget season. Also, Alan presented us with vehicles for the lease program in 2019. And Gary submitted the salary study, so we'll be taking that into advisement, and plenty of work ahead of us. We meet on August 28th at 1 p.m.
Oh, and by the way, question, I guess, or comment. By the way, Alan's gone. Alan worked out the numbers for this, the MNC raises proposal in a number of different iterations, so that was very helpful. And so we do have numbers that reflect what the budget would need to include if we were to approve the study as, I'm sorry, the salary system as it is configured right now. And that may change if we change the way it goes, but he's got some ballpark figures, which is very helpful.
Do you have a question?
No, I was just gonna say, for Otsego Now, I mean, everyone is getting the minutes and the, the topics that are being discussed. I mean, obviously Jody's here, but I don't know if, I know Andrew had emailed me some questions about, the NYSEG, CNG facility piece, and there's been some press on, some articles that we're following up. It's a work in progress, but I didn't know if there was anything specific, like pressing, since Jody's here, that folks had about that issue or something else with Otsego Now.
We do still have a vacancy on the board. There's been a couple of names submitted, and a couple more, at least one through consideration. I know who would interview somebody at one point internally.
I'm sorry?
Otsego Now, your vacancy on the board, do you have a pressing need to fill that?
We don't have a special need, but we're certainly, whenever we can get it filled, it would be helpful. And I know that occasionally one of the board members has emailed me on questions, and I encourage your board members to email me or any of my board members and we'll get right back to you, hopefully with the right answers, or at least start the dialogue on it.
Yes.
Judy, I just wanted to thank you for your part in this, whatever it is, with Michelle and moving those offices together. There seemed to be a lot more coordination in all these different agencies. The other night I was down in Otsego, and Michelle was there for the 4 presentations for the use of the school.
And the Center for Agriculture Development and Entrepreneurialism is moving in today. Okay.
Good.
So
So it's going to become really a one-stop shop.
Right, the Chamber of Commerce is.
Anything happen with the Ridgefield sports field?
I got, and we supported an application that they were submitting for the CFA round. Unfortunately, they didn't get it in time, because I got an email on Monday saying.
Who did, the village didn't get it, or you?
I think the youth association was actually working on it. And at that, once I suggested to our committee, my projects committee chairman, that we should sit down with them and let's see if we can help move this project along more quickly than it's been going. So we're gonna try to do that in the next couple of weeks.
Anything else?
As Jody and Kathy can both attest, we have 4 very viable proposals on our elementary school in Otsego. Jody's familiar with it. Our school board has a very, very difficult decision to make who to pick, which is a great position to be in.
Yes.
That being said, once they make that decision, I had spoken to Jody, 2 of the proposals are housing, 2 of them are business. Both, talk to anybody in the county, we need all of it. So I would hope that here at the county level, at Otsego now, that we approach what the losers, whoever is selected there, to see how we can help them, find spots in the county.
And I did mention that on my way home, I will be stopping at the first
Big M,
exit
it's all
off
Big M.
88 to look at this former grocery store.
Big M.
And see if we can move one of those.
There's a phone number on the lawn too, whoever's contacting.
I will write that down.
So,
And I did mention that to the mayor, that a possible use would be, so Ernie Cole, the village mayor.
Dave, policies?
Yes.
You asked me if I would.
Yes, just get a quick.
Okay, the policy project, you all got my brief email, I think, a month or so ago about summarizing what's in there. I looked more carefully and discovered of the 190 some odd policies, about 50 of them are duplicates. There's one category, one in another, so at admin, we eliminated that. At admin, I handed out a list of what was left and which committee really should be taking that on. And in some cases, which department head should be helping them. And the process is this: committees will be looking at the ones that are on their list, and with the help of the appropriate department head, we'll be determining whether that policy, each policy is useful, is appropriate, it's up to date. If not, rewrite it and submit it to admin. There are a bunch that still aren't assigned. That's one of the things I have to do, so ask around and see where they should go. But here's another, and the other thing is, again, a month ago or so, whenever it was when I sent that out, I suggested that we update our ethics policy right away, not because there's anything wrong with it, but it would be nice to have an updated current one as we start with our ethics board. And finally, in admin, we talked about the purpose of and the use of a collection of policies. It looks like whenever anybody needed something done, they wrote a policy, and that's the way it looks. There are whole swaths of the county that have no policies at all in the policy manual. In fact, there are only 3 committees that really are appropriate for those policies at Public Safety, Public Works, and admin. So there's a lot missing. There's probably a lot, do we need a policy for the folder stapling machine? We've got one. There are some,
You have the machine anymore?
I don't even know if we have a machine anymore. So there are some that we don't need. There's a lot that we probably do need. So there's another sense, I think, and Meg and I will talk more about this, I think, of looking at it from a higher elevation and see whether we need to restructure our idea of what a set of policies should be and what should be there and what shouldn't.
I know this sounds silly, but would that be a bad idea to have a policy on policies? How often they are looked at for being updated?
Well, there's status like that at the state,
Yeah. And that's why we're doing it.
That's why we're doing it.
Yeah, because we're way out of compliance. You're absolutely right. It needs to happen.
This is a digression, Mary, but it's a Gary-related question, so I thought that might be appropriate. You might not want to refer it to the lawyer, but I wanted to ask you, how, if you could just clarify for us and maybe give a little mini report on that paid part, the induction weekend parking?
Oh, right.
And also specifically mention where the funds would be used within the county.
Yeah, the last question first, I have a list of very particular projects that the DSS folks sent me. Then I can just send that out to everybody. And in fact, on the morning of, I had that list printed out, and anybody who was interested, I would just hand them that list. We opened both lots, this lot right here that I can see out the window, and the one just to the east of the county office building. Both of those only have one entrance, and so we felt that was easier to manage. We started way too early. We didn't need to start that early. We didn't know. So that's one of the things we learned. We were done by 9:30. By 9:30 in the morning, all the spaces were taken. Took in $1,840, and that will go to these projects that are not in. And again, to respond to something you said during the public public's chance to address us, they will all go to projects that are not covered in the budget, but do provide services to Otsego County residents in need. And again, as I said, I'll send you all
Actually,
that detail.
Gary, I mean, if you don't mind, I can hit the high points on it real quickly.
Oh, you've got it there?
Yeah.
Gary's got everything in those machines.
And I'm not gonna go, Gary has a lot more detail, but one-time basic necessities while families apply for services. And then he has some examples like food, filling a prescription, car insurance. The tiny houses will need basics: sheets, pillows, sleeping bags, bedding, curtains, bus passes or gas cards. This community garden initiative, some of the development of that, and there's a lot more detail behind some of that. Housing assistance, security deposit, first month rent, or pay 1 month's rent to avoid homelessness. After-school program fees, school supplies, clothes, alarm clocks, field trip fees, or extras like lunch, souvenirs. Behavioral plan incentives such as small amounts on gift cards, movie tickets, etc. So that's.
Yeah, it's the list that we gave, yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, if you can forward that.
Yeah, I certainly will. Stuff I take for granted in my life, you know, and that falls right through the cracks with so many people.
Okay, moving forward, any other special reports?
Tourism gonna come give a report? They're supposed to report to the board, and budget season's coming.
Yeah, they're coming to the IGA meeting on August 12th. And we will, I'm sure, invite them specially to come to the September 5th meeting as well to report. They were hoping to get some aggregate data as we go through the year, make their report more meaningful.
Okay, anyone wishing to remove anything from the consent agenda? Number 211 is already been pulled.
214, please.
218.
Anything left on the consent?
No.
211,
It'll be like the old days.
213,
214.
214, 218. Anyone else? So again, currently it's 211, 212, 213, 214, 218. Okay, need a motion to dispense with the reading of all resolutions.
I'll make that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried. Call for action on the consent agenda. Motion.
Oh, so moved. Yes.
Second. Roll call vote, any discussion? Roll call vote.
Frazier.
Aye.
Farwell. Aye. Clark. Stammel.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Overrecker.
Aye.
Bliss.
Aye.
Marietta.
Yes.
McCarty.
Aye.
Wilbur.
Aye.
Koenig.
Aye.
Martini.
Aye.
Lappin.
Aye.
Shannon.
Aye.
6,000 228 ayes, 0 noes, 0 absent. Motion consent agenda has passed. Okay, start with 211. Just pull back.
Yeah, I just wanted to correct, the, I'll find the line, I'm sorry, I didn't have it set up. Bilderbeck. It says the recreational opportunities in rural Otsego County to be located in Harry Bilderbeck State Forest. It's actually a county property. And that was the change that I wanted to make.
I also have to recuse myself from that vote.
Okay.
So do we need a motion to amend on that?
Motion to amend.
I'll make that motion.
Second. We can do a voice vote on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Abstention? The amendment to resolution 211 has passed. Now we need a vote on the resolution 211 as amended.
So moved.
Second? And that can also be a motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Resolution 211 as amended is passed. 212.
Creating two positions in the Sheriff's Department, Corrections Nurses, number 1 and 2, Kennedy over at the Fraser Court next to McCarty.
One individual. You have to have a second.
Yeah. You just check, make sure it's full. Second? Any discussion? You can't second. Roll call vote?
Aye.
Fraser?
Oh, roll call.
This is 4 hours. I did it last month, so.
Farwell?
Aye.
Clark?
Abstain.
Sample?
Aye.
Kennedy? Aye. O'Bracker?
Aye.
Bliss?
Aye.
Marietta?
Yes.
McCarty?
Aye.
Wilbur?
Aye.
Koenig?
Aye.
Martini? Lappin?
Aye.
Shannon?
Aye.
5,674 ayes, 0 noes, 554 abstained. Resolution 212 is passed.
Resolution 213, abolishing two positions in the Sheriff's Department, registered professional nurse, number 1 and 4, Fraser, Wilbur, Stanwell, Farwell.
So moved.
Second. Discussion, being limited. Roll call vote.
Fraser?
Aye.
Farwell?
Aye.
Clark?
Abstain.
Stanwell?
Aye.
Kennedy?
Aye.
O'Bracker?
Aye.
Bliss?
Aye.
Marietta?
Yes.
McCarty?
Aye.
Wilbur?
Aye.
Koenig?
Aye.
Martini?
Aye.
Lappin?
Aye.
Shannon?
Aye.
5,674 ayes, 0 noes, 554 abstained. Resolution 213 is passed.
Resolution 214, supporting the enactment of state tax reforms to ensure internet fairness and tax conformity. Kennedy, O'Bracker, Fraser, Koenig, Stanwell, McCarty. So, I was told that Liz would like to make a friendly amendment to this, and I'm perfectly amenable to the friendly amendment.
Still need a second?
Oh, I'll second. Oh, Ken?
You can't.
I'll second.
I'll second.
Okay, first I would want to tell you that I talked to Senator Seward about this, and he does support this measure, although he doesn't think it's going to happen right away, but maybe within the next year. But when we talked about this at IGA, one of the important things that Michelle reminded us of, that it's very important for Otsego County to have sales tax. It's a big deal for us. So I would just like to propose the following friendly amendment, and list an extra whereas at the end. Whereas sales tax is a significant source of Otsego County revenue and provides funding for services that is not state or federally reimbursed.
that you wrote it down and handed it off.
Yes,
Hey.
yes, very helpful.
Showing us up.
Okay, roll call vote for add to amend resolution 214. I'm going to voice vote on this. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Amendment to 214 approved. Now can we voice vote on resolution 214 as amended? We need a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Resolution 214 is passed.
Resolution 218, authorizing the release of program income funds to various county projects. Kennedy, Overacre, Marietta, Norwell, Shannon.
We need a second first.
Second?
There's actually two amendments that we're looking at, for this resolution. The first would be, specific to, the feasibility study. Following up on, Representative Clark's comments, I think what we can, at least what I would suggest for the amendment is feasibility study for consideration of a distribution center on the I-88 corridor. So we're specifically be dropping town of Maryland, so it just gives us a little more flexibility. And then the second amendment is in regards to Code Edom. We actually picked up some language in here that was not intended around BOCES. BOCES is, would help us identify students, but we never intended the money to actually go to BOCES. So the amendment would actually be Code Edom educational program with Otsego Now to sponsor students to train in coding. So we're working with Otsego Now on this program. So we're just eliminating ONC BOCES. So Code Edom educational program with Otsego Now to sponsor students to train in coding. Those are the two amendments.
I just have clarification on that then. The ONC BOCES is struck from there. You will be considering students from districts that do not participate in ONC BOCES, but participate in the BOCES as well.
Yes,
Because there's many out-of-county.
Oh, yeah, not just
schools
ONC,
in
yeah.
ONC
Yep.
that should not have precedent over there.
Yep.
Originally, when, we've actually started this discussion with Code Edom about in December, and so it's been a work in progress. We haven't talked to BOCES, we have talked to a couple of school districts, we haven't talked to Hartwick, we've talked to SUNY, Oneana, and really they were gonna help identify students that could partake in this whole thing. We're working with another large non-for-profit organization tomorrow, so we're working with it, but it wasn't intended that any one of those agencies that I just named would be the lead at this point in time. We're still.
So to make sure that schools in the western part of the county were going to be afforded the opportunity to recommend students as well. And so everything seems to be decided right now. So thank you.
It's all school districts, all school districts.
Okay, motion to amend,
Motion to amend.
Second.
roll call vote.
Frazier.
Aye.
Farwell.
Aye.
Clark. Aye. Stanley.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Overacre.
Aye.
Bliss.
Aye.
Marietta.
Yes.
McCarty.
Aye.
Wilbur.
Aye.
Koenig.
Aye.
Martini.
Aye.
Lappin.
Aye.
Shannon.
Aye.
6,228 ayes, 0 noes, 0 abstained. Resolution 218 has been amended. Now, motion to accept resolution 218 as amended.
So moved.
Second.
Second on, roll call vote.
Frazier.
Aye.
Farwell.
Aye.
Clark. Aye. Stanley.
Aye.
Kennedy.
Aye.
Overacre.
Aye.
Bliss.
Aye.
Marietta.
Yes.
McCarty.
Aye.
Wilbur.
Aye.
Koenig.
Aye.
Martini.
Aye.
Lappin.
Aye.
Shannon.
Aye.
6,228 ayes, 0 noes, 0 abstained. Resolution 218 is passed.
being on probation is due effective immediately.
Second? Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote. This will be identified, I'm sorry, resolution 220.
Frazier?
Aye.
Arwell?
Aye.
Clark? Stanhope?
Aye.
Kennedy?
Aye.
Overricker?
Aye.
Bliss? Marietta?
Yes.
McCarty?
Aye.
Wilbur?
Aye.
Stoneman?
Aye.
Martina?
6,228 ayes, 0 noes, 0 abstained, resolution 220 is passed.
Did you need to ask if there was any objections to that? I mean, I know there's not, but someday when there is, I don't think it would be bad for you to be able to say that up. No. That's all we're worried about.
Any other unfinished business?
RGS across the hall. Short.
Motion to adjourn?
No, I'm sorry.
Thank you all.
Peter, when you come up for a meeting.